What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new live episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today, Sunday afternoon. We got 6 incredible topics we're going to be breaking down for you. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive in regards to a recent Hollywood Reporter article. Is Disney doing bad with Star Wars? We'll definitely go ahead and talk about it, along with the toxic fandom side of things and exactly how Hollywood is currently tackling it. We got some great news in regards to the DCU and James Gunn as he reveals a brand new project that they're working on in animated form. We got some She-Ra live action series live news, guys, and a bunch more. So sit back, relax, and we'll see you on the other side. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news. It is I, your host, Adam Perez, joined by none other than my co-host, Stewart Branscombe. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, not much. Another week down and ready to enjoy my weekend. My Sunday and Mondays are my weekends.
I gotta tell you, I kind of enjoy having my full weekends for sure, Saturdays and Sundays. Do you find having Monday off difficult, or you still manage to get stuff done on a Monday?
I still managed to get stuff done on Monday. Yeah, obviously I would love to have Saturday and Sunday off, but yeah, when you work customer service, sometimes that's like close to impossible. But one of these days,
Bro,
yeah,
don't I know it?
if I'm still working there like 5 years, I'm gonna be like, hey, I have seniority. I get weekends off now.
Bro, I know that far too well. My years of retail are way past me, or at least so I say for right now. But I definitely remember barely having weekends off the way that I personally would like. So I had to move to a 9 to 5, 8 to 5, 9 to 6 job sort of thing, just so I could get those weekends off, man. I enjoy them way too much.
Yeah, that I totally understand.
But it's good to see you, man. We got a bunch of great topics we're going to be breaking down for you. I almost only did 5 articles this week because I had a feeling we might go a little bit over with some of the things that we're talking about today. But we'll definitely see how it goes. We got 6 topics overall that we're going to be breaking down for you guys. Feel free to let your thoughts be known in regards to, as we're breaking down these articles, let your thoughts be known and give your opinions in regards to what you're certainly hearing, because we definitely love to have conversation and bounce some ideas off of you guys. So certainly feel free to jump on in the live chat if you want to, or in the comment section box below after this episode certainly wraps. If you want to go ahead and submit over a live viewer question, you can certainly go ahead and do so now. We will get to your questions at the end of the show, but if you want to go over to our YouTube channel, click on that community tab. There is a live viewer question post for you guys if you want to go ahead and submit that over. But let's give some shout outs to some people that are actually watching us live that gave some comments already to kick off the show. Ricky Perez, what's going on, Ricky? Good to see you, man. He says, hey, Adam, just saw another new trailer for the upcoming Paddington 3, Paddington in Peru, and it's going to be in theaters in the UK in November before it's released in 2025. Also, Paramount just confirmed the upcoming animated Smurfs movie has moved its release date from February to July 2024. I didn't even know they were doing a Paddington 3, to be honest with you, Stuart. Have you heard about that?
Only recently, and that was because the trailer just came out for it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw like the end of it because it was like while I was running food in a theater. So yeah, I really liked the first one, and even though I haven't seen the second one yet, but I hear people saying that it's even better. So it is on my list.
I was about to ask you if you've watched them before. I have not watched either of them though.
Oh man,
But I
the
have heard
first one
good
was
things.
yeah, it was hilarious and very wholesome.
Is that Ewan McGregor that does the voice of Paddington, or am I thinking of? Maybe I'm thinking of him as Christopher Robin or something. Who does the voice of Paddington?
I actually don't know. Let's find out. Yeah, here it is as I'm typing it in. Paddington in Peru.
We got Blossom in the live chat today. What's up, Blossom? Good to certainly see you out here. Ricky says, and finally, PBS Kids series The Odd Squad celebrates its 10-year anniversary in 2024. Or he says, sorry, it's 2025. Can I be honest with you, man? I have not watched PBS in years, but I just have started within the past 2 or 3 years again because I have a son now. And I like to put on PBS Kids cartoons and things like that for him during the week, or especially on the weekends. It's something that I grew up on a lot of PBS back in the day, back in like the 80s and 90s. And so I've always liked their content that they have. And one of their shows that makes me personally laugh, that I just think is just so odd and really perfectly titled, just weird and perfectly titled in odd, is The Odd Squad. Like I absolutely love it. It's one of those shows that I personally think, had Odd Squad come out when I was younger, I totally would have been on board with it. I mean, this is like, I feel like The Odd Squad is so perfect for kids that are just, I don't want to say oddballs, but are like the smart, weird kid sort of thing. That's just like, they got their own weird sense of humor that just just really works for me, man. Like I don't know, I'm a big fan of Odd Squad. So appreciate you keeping me up to date on that, Ricky. I didn't know they were around for 10 years. I literally just discovered them.
That's funny. Have you being a dad, have you shown your kid Bluey yet?
Yes.
Okay, because
Yeah.
that is one my girlfriend and I started watching like a year ago, and I did not expect to be as hooked onto that show as we are, because it's like, man, this is a show that is like literally aimed at toddlers, and yet we're two grown adults, no kids, and we're like, man, show is just too good not to watch.
Yeah, it's really good. I like the fact that they are very digestible episodes. I feel like it holds my son's attention span, because I don't think they go more than like 10 minutes or some shit, like 15 minutes or something like that. I feel like they're really, really short, honestly.
Mhm.
I always love their message. They're always wholesome. They're really great family sort of content. I love the two kids and their relationships with their parents. It's pretty fun. I have it.
Yeah. It's that perfect balance of like with the two kids, like they're not like the perfect angels. They of course are kids and they make
Right.
mistakes, but at
Right.
the same time, like they're so um how do I put it? Like they clearly constantly like want to like be better by the end of the episode. And that's something I really like about watching the two of them, like in their adventures that they go on. And
Yeah.
not to mention the bandit makes me laugh every freaking time. He is hilarious.
Yeah, I think they have some really good messages and lessons for kids to learn and grapple with, and so I'm a big fan of what they do on that show. But yeah, we watch a bunch of kids shows around here now. Unfortunately, like that's all I remember. Like I'm surprised I'm not doing reviews for like kids shows at this point, with all the crap that I watch. But yeah, guys, let us know how your week's been. Let us know any other news or information that's dropped this week that you guys want to go ahead and talk about. Feel free to let your thoughts be known in the comment section box. If you want to support the channel, you certainly can. You certainly can monetarily. Feel free to submit over a super chat if you'd like to. We'll definitely stop what we're doing and make sure we bring you up on stage to acknowledge your participation and certainly helping this channel grow. If you can't help out monetarily, that's more than fine. Feel free to just like that video. It is certainly free. Certainly share these videos as well. It definitely does go a long way. But with that out of the way, Stuart, let's get into our first segment of the day. Are you ready, sir?
I am indeed.
Let's get into honorable. This is your first time certainly joining us. Honorable mentions, our first segment of the day, topics that we felt you certainly deserve to certainly still know about, even though we didn't necessarily make our main topics. We definitely want to get you updated on some of your favorite fandoms and franchises. Stuart, what you got for us today, man?
All right, so I got a couple of fun ones. Let me start with the Dragon Ball Sparking Zero announcement, or not announcement. Apparently, this has been known for a little bit. Actually, both
Okay.
my honorable topics apparently have already been news for a while. But Sparking Zero will not be balanced, and You know, I'm mixed on this because as a Dragon Ball fan, I find this awesome. Like if I'm playing as Super Saiyan 3 Goku and someone else is playing as like Krillin, clearly Super Saiyan 3 Goku should be a lot stronger. But you know, as a gamer, you kind of hate that because you know, as a gamer, it's like no, there should be benefits and downsides to every character to make a balanced game. So it's like on a gaming standpoint, I can see why some people may not like this, but as a Dragon Ball Z fan, I kind of dig this idea, you know. So there will be like kind of like S tier characters, A tier, B tier, yeah, all that. So it's an interesting strategy. Or you know what? Let me put it this way: bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. So that's my Dragon Ball Z news. Now the other one is about a crossover. Between two sitcoms that are very, very popular right now. However, they couldn't be more different from each other. But apparently, it's happening next season on Abbott Elementary. The cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia will be joining season 4 of Abbott Elementary for a crossover episode. No idea how this plot is going to get set up, how it's going to work. I have some like ideas of like some gags they may go with, but other than that, yeah, I have absolutely no idea how they're going to set this up within the episode itself, but I am looking forward to it.
I'll have to let my girlfriend know about that. She's a big Sunny in Philadelphia fan, so she might absolutely love that.
Yep, I think if you're a fan of either shows, it's going to be great. I think like what makes it even funnier. So like Abbott Elementary is very much a wholesome comedy, always something that like, you know, makes you feel good, you know, by the end of the episode. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is a comedy that constantly punches down. So now that those two worlds are colliding, I can't wait to see what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I love it. That should be pretty interesting for sure. I really appreciate that honorable mention for sure. What else we got? Scream 7 is back in the news. We have ourselves a release date here. According to Hollywood Reporter, returning franchise star Nev Campbell and director Kevin Williamson announced Tuesday that Scream 7 will hit theaters February 27th of 2026. So we got maybe about a year and a half, certainly still yet to go. So not February 27th of next year, but 2026. So certainly mark your calendars for that one if you're still interested in that franchise. We also got Jurassic World Rebirth news. According to one of the producers, filming has officially wrapped. In a recent update, Jurassic World producer Frank Marshall revealed that his film has finished its filming stage. The movie, scheduled to come out in 2025, is now set to enter its post-production phase. So they're going to start getting into working on the score, the editing, and so forth. But Jurassic World Rebirth, as quickly as it went into filming, Stewart, it wrapped filming. This was a super quick turnaround for a big blockbuster sequel.
Yeah, because I remember when we were announcing it not that long ago that it was just in the news that it was happening.
Yeah, it feels like they were very much as sort of like ahead of the game before they even made an announcement that they were getting ready to shoot. I mean, it felt very much like they had a script ready and were in quick search of a director. But that movie went into production and wrapped up quickly. So on to post-production, because I do believe, again, it is set to go ahead and drop in 2025. I don't know if we have an official release date, but sometime. Oh yeah, it is July 2nd of this year is what it is. July 2nd of this year for Jurassic World Rebirth. And then last but not least, Voltron is in the news. We've been keeping you guys up to date in regards to the movement on the live action Voltron series. Believe it or not, Stuart, we have our first casting announcement.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, our first casting announcement. Let me bring it up here real quick for you guys. I'm not familiar with this gentleman, but it says Tom Holland's West End understudy, Daniel Quinn. Daniel Quinn Toy, Nab's starring role in MGM's Voltron. This is an exclusive article. That's Daniel Quinn Toye, or Toy, if I'm pronouncing it right. Not quite sure. But he has officially been cast for the Voltron movie. Still no release date. They don't have any details on what the script is certainly like yet. But the dominoes and all the pieces are falling into place, Stuart. I'm really excited, man. This definitely feels like it's coming together.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully after this movie comes out, Paramount will learn to, how to make an actual Power Rangers adaptation.
Oh man, right? Like maybe they'll be, yeah, why would they I was going to say maybe Paramount will pick up the licensing rights for Power Rangers, but at this point I'm just like, well, if you got Voltron, why would you need anything else? So who knows? Amazon MGM. But I look, I'm still under the impression that I don't want to say Power Rangers has lost their impact, but when you got Pacific Rim and Voltron both getting live action adaptations, big monsters that fight, sort of like big robots that fight big monsters. Power Rangers is going to have a hard place to find a place to fit in there, man.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy, Stuart, because not only two of my favorite childhood cartoons are finally getting adapted, which I've always been wanting for a long time. He-Man Masters of the Universe is actually happening. Even though we had the Dolph Lundgren live action film, I've been wanting a modern version, for like a proper version, for such a long time. Masters of the Universe is finally happening, with casting going on right now, and now we also got Voltron officially casting. I'm blown away by this, man.
Mm-hmm.
Next year should be a good year.
It will be. The He-Man movie especially, like, I'm definitely hyped for, because I think even though the first attempt didn't work so well, it's like with what we can do with movies nowadays, the potential is just through the roof.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Couple comments. Marcelino, what's up, Marcelino? Good to see you in here, man. I'm finally reading the Kane Chronicles, which takes place in the same universe as Percy Jackson, but focus on the Egyptian side. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. Is it written by the same gentleman who did the Percy Jackson books? Let me know. Also, Death Battle is back. The newest episode, Omni-Man versus Bardock, was released 30 minutes ago, if you're interested.
Ooh, nice. Those are always fun. I remember when they first did the very first fight with Goku versus Superman, Dragon Ball Z fans were pissed from the outcome. And it's just like, whether you agree with it or not, it's just, their opinion. You're allowed to disagree without being like, so you don't have to get so angry about it, though.
Yeah, people get too angry about a lot of things, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, appreciate you bringing that up. I haven't watched the Death Battle in like ages, so maybe this is one I'll certainly check out, since it's been so long.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Feel free again to like and share this video. Let people know APlus Hero Report is live today, because Stuart, I think we're about to get into our main topics, man. Are you ready to go ahead and kick back and get into a deep dive with some of these topics with me, man?
Always.
Well, real quick before we do, Marcelino says, yes, Kane Chronicles is written by the same person, Rick Riordan. He's created an entire universe. That's cool. I didn't know he did all that. I mean, who knows? Maybe if Kane Chronicles, I don't know when he released them, but if they're rather successful and he continues to do great things with Percy Jackson, maybe that was what he moves over to next. Who knows? But that's cool. Appreciate the update.
Yeah, I can see it after Percy Jackson ends on Disney Plus, that being the next thing they adapt.
But guys, let's get into our main topics today, because Stuart, I think we got some juicy ones here to certainly talk about. I think we're going to be pretty opinionated on a couple of these articles. One of the reasons why I wanted to get through honorable mentions as quickly as we did today, guys, if you saw our thumbnail, this is probably like literally the brightest thumbnail I have had to create. I was looking at it. I was like, Star Wars, She-Ra, and Rugrats. I mean, look at all the pastel colors we got working on here today. But our main topic will in fact be Star Wars, Stuart. And this is definitely our bag, considering that you and I are really big both Star Wars fans. But the Star Wars franchise has been a little bit of a roller coaster ride, some would certainly say. I do think that there are certainly aspects of the fan base that have liked more of the Disney era Star Wars than maybe say some other groups of fans. Maybe some feel it's kind of mediocre, kind of lukewarm, while some others will say Star Wars has lost its its shine under Disney. Other people's thinking maybe Star Wars has gotten better under Disney. Wherever you sit in that category, it definitely needs to be discussed in the sense of how Disney has been utilizing the franchise that is Star Wars. And with a recent cancellation of the Acolyte causing a lot of stir online, we got an upcoming Star Wars series and Skeleton Crew set to go ahead and debut this summer. And we're still waiting for a brand new Star Wars movie to happen outside of The Mandalorian and Grogu. And so while we definitely have some things to look forward to, there's certainly some question marks still, Stuart, in regards to how Disney will be handling Star Wars kind of going forward. And based off of how people have kind of felt about Disney utilizing Star Wars, The Hollywood Reporter this week released an incredible article that really asked the question, is Disney bad at Star Wars? And I thought they gave a great analysis of just the content that Disney has put out and their own belief in regards to, is Disney good at it? Is it bad at it? Or is it maybe somewhere in the middle? And so, Stuart, I thought this would be a really great time for us to dive a little bit deeper into the world of Star Wars and really talk about the state. I guess this is like a Star Wars State of the Union address, if you will, to kind of give us a better understanding as to where Disney and Star Wars find themselves these days. In recent years, how have you personally felt with some of the content we've been getting? I mean, we got series, Stuart, like Andor, that's getting a second season here. Obi-Wan Kenobi, which has been a limited series, but we'll talk about that here also a little bit. We've got The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka. We're still waiting on this Lando movie. We've had animated series like Tales of the Jedi, Star Wars Resistance, The Bad Batch. I think they even brought back the Clone Wars for a little bit. We've had a few movies from them, a recent trilogy, the Solo film, a lot of Disney era content. Rogue One, who can certainly forget about that. How have you personally felt about where Disney finds themselves with Star Wars right now?
Oh man, so heavy question because yeah, I think it's overall kind of mixed because I think that for the most part they produced a lot of movies and a lot of television shows that I absolutely love. I really like Force Awakens, and I don't care what people say, I like The Last Jedi, and I will take that to my grave.
How
you know
dare you, sir?
how dare I like The Last Jedi? But I also, Solo was fun. Really liked Rogue One. Andor, freaking amazing. The best thing to come out since like the original trilogy. Like that. Oh my God, that show was so good. Acolyte, okay. The Mandalorian, great first two seasons. Season 3, not the best, but not bad. I thought Book of Boba was better than a lot of people give it credit for. Obi-Wan, okay. Sorry, I know he did ask me to review every single thing from
Oh
the
no,
Disney, but I just wanted to like
your
kind of
thoughts,
give you
yeah.
just the reason I say all this though is to just kind of like show one of the things I do appreciate about this Disney era Star Wars is the fact that they try a bunch of different things, and the fact that like not all of it works, some of it does, some of it doesn't, but for the most part it's like even the stuff that I'm not a big fan of usually doesn't go out of its way to like disrespect Star Wars or try to say that we're too good for what we've done in the past, we're doing something else, we're just going to ignore what happened. I like how they're constantly trying to maintain the continuity, they're constantly trying to maintain the messages of Star Wars, and they're constantly trying to, diversify the cast in order to make sure like everyone can see themselves within like some of the characters that we see. And I think that all those are good decisions. However, this is where I think I get really frustrated with Disney a lot of times is them constantly going back on like different plans because they get like, negative feedback on the internet. And I don't mean like adjusting, like it's like they completely start from scratch or completely deleted project rather than just trying to move on from there. So, like, for example, Last Jedi, a lot of mixed reviews with that movie. I think that of all the Star Wars properties out there, I would say that is the most mixed, because you have some people that praise it and hate it just like all over the place.
The Rise of
So,
Skywalker?
oh, no.
Oh,
The Last
Last
Jedi.
Jedi? Uh-huh.
Last Jedi, I think is kind of, or Rise of Skywalker, I think is universally like not liked very much, but I could be wrong there. But Last Jedi seems to be the most mixed one. So it's like them wanting to prevent the same backlash that they got from the Last Jedi that made the Rise of Skywalker, which to me was a lot worse. And instead of just like continuing with their original course, their original plan, and having the original guy who was going to direct the ninth movie continue with the script that I thought looked pretty amazing, honestly. So I think when Disney does stuff like that, canceling the Acolyte, also setting up for Grogu to move on to bigger and better things, only for Disney to then be like, oh, no. Grogu makes us a lot of money in the marketing campaign, or in the marketing, so you have to keep him in season 3, figure it out, things like that. There are times where Disney constantly goes back, and then same with a lot of the movies that they're announcing, the fact that they'll announce a movie, but then you have internet people going like, oh, well, I have a vague idea of what this movie might be like, so I hate it, don't make it. And Disney being like, oh, no, people are already not looking forward to this, we got to cancel it. So when they do things like that, that pisses me off. And then also, not to mention, even with the Acolyte, because I think it's kind of funny. I've seen so many people, and I'm not talking about like the grifter channels. I'm talking about like the YouTube channels that actually do like television reviews, like without crying like babies, basically. Like even those people who gave the Acolyte like pretty negative reviews for the most part were all like kind of like not upset, I don't want to say, but they all like thought, oh no, I would have watched the season 2, because even though I didn't like season 1, the show could have improved. And I think that's like one thing I would agree with too. Like as someone who thought that Acolyte season 1 was good, I thought it had a chance to really improve in season 2. Like it could have been a much better show, because I think season 1 definitely had a lot of issues, but rather than trying to improve, they just start over. I think that's actually probably what I would say the biggest issue I have with Disney Star Wars is they don't try to improve. They try to like start from scratch, and act like, okay, this is our first time doing Star Wars. Let's see how fans like this. And then if they don't like it, oh, nope, we're scratching that. We're starting all over again.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely quite frustrating, to certainly say the least, as a Star Wars fan these days. Girlfriend coming through. What's up, Cindy? Certainly appreciate you coming through, baby, and checking us out today. Shantori Wilkins. What's up, Shantori? Good to certainly see you around these parts. Also, thank you so much. Marcelino says they canceled Lando, though. Just as a correction, they canceled it as a series, but it is still a go as of right now for it to be a movie. I think we literally just highlighted some comments from Donald Glover a couple of weeks back, him talking about Lando and what he wants to bring to the Lando character moving forward. So I do believe, and then again, this is Disney Star Wars. They could probably cancel that at any point in time too, but it's no longer a series. It has been turned into a movie and put into the hands of Donald Glover. So we're certainly waiting for that.
If they cancel Lando again, I'm sure Donald Glover will just will still be happy to work with Disney on another project. I'm sure he won't hold a grudge for them canceling 2 of his projects now.
yeah, probably not. Darth, what's up, Darth Gutierrez? Good to see you, man. Appreciate you coming through today. But let's dive into this article here, Stewart. And I'll try and skim through some of this. It's a pretty long article, but certainly worth a read. It says increasingly there's an exchange in Star Wars The Force Awakens when Rey and Finn are fleeing from stormtroopers and searching for a way to escape. Rey spots the legendary Millennium Falcon, declares it looks like garbage, and then quickly reconsiders. The garbage will do. Increasingly, that's the attitude some fans have had about Star Wars programming. Look, we all know this isn't fantastic anymore, but Star Wars is still Star Wars, and therefore it will do. To be fair, Disney Star Wars shows and movies remain far from space junk. Their titles typically get glowing reviews from critics and generate box office returns and streaming ratings that other studios would envy, though certainly at a high cost. So let's run through Star Wars legacy to date with Disney from The Force Awakens to The Acolyte. Is Disney kind of bad at Star Wars, or is this the case where a very high bar for success combined with the passionate fandom's gripes tend to obscure what is otherwise a hugely popular and lucrative franchise? Let's take a closer look. So they dive into the films at first, reminding us of George Lucas selling the rights to Lucasfilm back in 2012, and then the launch of the brand new Star Wars trilogy in 2015 with The Force Awakens, which, mind you, is a film that I personally saw like 13 times in theaters. I had such a fun time with that movie. I get the gripe of some people that it may be too on the nose for A New Hope in regards to recycling things, but outside of Star Killer Base, I have a really fun time with the rest and concept of that movie, honestly.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. I think I will agree with the notion that the movie played it safe, but I think it was a smart
yeah.
idea for it to play it safe, since this is like going to be your introduction to the new trilogy.
Yeah, I think Force Awakens was definitely a safe move, but it was a really fun move and a great way of introducing new characters. And then when you do want Star Wars to take a risk, welcome to 2017 and The Last Jedi, where it literally broke the brains of fandoms everywhere. And then 2019, The Rise of Skywalker, where they tried to push the narrative closer to its original intentions. Comedians learn in improv class to always say yes and to an idea introduced during the show, no matter how challenging. The studio and Abrams' reactions to The Last Jedi was more like, no, actually. The result was a trilogy that's a mishmash of dueling creative visions. And I totally agree with that. It's one of those things, and I've said this before. I think it definitely shows itself as a reactionary film, the film of Skywalker, because to be honest with you, regardless of the direction in which Rian Johnson took that story, Disney should have been more forthcoming in finding a capable writer that can take what J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson put to pen, and create something out of that to push the movie for to push the story forward instead of feeling like we got to kind of make all these corrections. I think they should have just continued that path that they had originally. The box office also told a story though. Force Awakens made $2 billion worldwide. It's still the number one domestic um, grossing movie of all time. I think it might be within the top 5 for worldwide grossing of all time, if I'm not mistaken. Last Jedi dropped to 1.3 billion, and then Skywalker made just a billion. These are incredible numbers for any film, but they were going the wrong way. When the third entry in the trilogy, launching a new franchise, sells half as many tickets at first, you probably made a wrong turn somewhere. The pushback I give to that when it comes to the box office, one of the things that I hear about the box office is the monumental drop off, right? From like $2.3 billion from The Force Awakens. The Last Jedi went to $1.3 billion, which again, like the article states, I definitely not anything to sneeze at. I think any franchise would love to have movies break $1 billion, but I guess when it comes to Star Wars, maybe they expect a little bit more. My argument has always been The Force Awakens um comes in and it's sort of like a once in a lifetime event situation, Stuart, right? Like same thing when we had the Phantom Menace. People didn't even know if we were going to be getting any more Star Wars episode movies. And then when it's revealed that we're going to get ourselves a brand new trilogy, everybody's got to come out to the movie theater. Like this is a once in a lifetime event. And the film itself showcased that with 2.3 or 2 point something billion dollars, if you will. So I think when you have sort of like a huge cinematic moment in history, I think you're always going to have a bigger box office. And so I expect almost for a second entry like that to have a significantly big drop off for its second film. The same thing happened when it came to Attack of the Clones. That had a huge drop off from the Phantom Menace, which again, people went to the Phantom Menace because it's one of those once in a lifetime opportunities of seeing Star Wars back again on the big screen. So Attack of the Clones had a drop off. The Last Jedi had a drop off, but The Last Jedi still made $1.3 billion. And if you ask me, I certainly think that's a win. The trajectory, though, does worry me when you look at The Rise of Skywalker, though, coming in at just $1 billion. At least Revenge of the Sith went on to make more of a profit than Attack of the Clones certainly did by a substantial margin. So when I look at the two trilogies and the trajectory, the first two episodes certainly make sense to me, but Rise of Skywalker is really where it goes down. What it feels like, not only have you lost the audience to divisiveness from something like The Last Jedi, but then the Rise of Skywalker just not being that good of a movie. I can see why it only brought in $1 billion. But again, Stuart, it's $1 billion. It's not like every movie makes $1 billion these days. There's only been 55 movies in like the lifespan of all cinema that have ever crossed $1 billion. And so, you know, I do think definitely going in the wrong trajectory for Star Wars, but I still think it shows a healthy interest in the brand. But I can understand the idea of it being people freaking out because of the trajectory of the box office, though. What do you think?
Yeah, like it's kind of the same thing with there's a couple other movies where I can think of as examples for this, where like they'll consider it a failure if there's a big drop after the first weekend. So I can kind of see why Disney would be worried about The Last Jedi in that sense. But again, I think that despite how it is, I think at the most, you know, you you already didn't have like a full plan going on, you know, when you started this trilogy. And when you had a guy, you know, and keep in mind, each movie being 2 years apart is not a lot of time to, you know, create a movie. So when you had a guy who already had a script ready to go for episode 9, at the most maybe tweak it, but starting from scratch and completely erasing his script and then firing him and then hiring J.J. Abrams to write the 9th movie, only have to have that 9th movie just basically be a sequel to 7 and then an apology letter to 8. I think that's just, as a bit on a business standpoint, I think that was a bad idea. You know, and I think that this mistake has been made before, because I do think that, you know, we can easily say in retrospect that the smarter idea for Warner Brothers after Dawn of Justice, because again, another movie that had a very strong opening weekend, but then quite the big drop off the next weekend. And so I think they were just afraid that, like, you know, Zack Snyder being the head of DC would be really bad for it. And I get if you want to switch things up because it didn't work so well, but you've already committed at this point to having him direct, you know, these amount of movies. So yes, I think tweaking up Justice League would have been a good idea, but I don't think replacing him with someone else and completely scrapping his, well, not completely, like sure they kept some of it in there, but almost completely scrapping his movie and then hiring a completely different director to make it more like another successful franchise. Also, as you know, as a business decision, not the smartest move.
Yeah, not the smartest move.
Yeah.
It does go on to say after Rise of Skywalker, Disney paused making big screen movies altogether, but continued to announce new films in development. I mean, the list of well-known writers and directors have come and gone is comically long. I mean, listen to these names, Stuart. Ryan Johnson, he was set to do a trilogy. David Benioff and Weiss from Game of Thrones was supposed to do a trilogy. Patty Jenkins, Colin Trevorrow, who you're referring to, that was set to do the third installment for this trilogy. Damon Lindelof, David Goyer, Josh Trank. Oh, I forgot even Josh Trank was involved in something. Guillermo del Toro, Taika Waititi, and even Marvel chief Kevin Feige. Some of their projects were confidently announced as movies that were definitely happening until they weren't. And then there are some that were never revealed publicly. It seems like it's rather chaotic for a studio that's famously meticulous. Well, yes, it does. The charitable read is that Star Wars movies should be very special, and the studio is determined to get them right. A batch of the projects are still in the works. James Mangold is developing a Dawn of the Jedi feature. Sean Levy is working on an untitled film. Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron was resurrected this year. And Lindelof's feature starring Daisy Ridley's Rey has shifted to director Charmin Obaid-Chinoy. It's uncertain which of these, if any, will be made. Yeah, I mean, that's at this point, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And then we have the television shows. We have the Mandalorian that debuted in 2019. Instead of a 4th season, though, Disney decided to pivot The Mandalorian to launch its first Star Wars feature since The Rise of Skywalker. Coming in 2026, The Mandalorian and Grogu will probably perform well, yet it also looks like Disney spent many years and untold capital struggling to develop a new Star Wars movie, and its best idea was an extra long episode of a TV show. Damn. Yeah.
That is a hilarious way of looking at it, and yeah, they're not wrong.
They're definitely not wrong in that regards. From the Mandalorian came the spinoff, The Book of Boba Fett. So much of this brief effort was weirdly clunky. 2 Mandalorian episodes were inexplicably sandwiched into the show 7, and it felt like a band-aid effort to repair the struggling show. Ain't that truth?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got and then we had the 2022 Obi-Wan Kenobi series, 2022 Andor series, which again, I believe Ewan McGregor has been talking about wanting to return, Stewart, believe it or not. I feel like the course for him to return is getting louder and louder. Let me see. He just had recent comments too. Let me see if I can find them. He mentioned something about wanting to don the costumes for the Clone Wars.
See, that would be awesome. Because we had a cool flashback with Hayden Christensen during Ahsoka that I absolutely loved, getting to finally see him donning the Clone Wars outfit that he wore, but in live action. So I would love to see that with Ewan McGregor. It was something I was hoping they would do in a flashback with the Kenobi series.
I'm trying to see if I can find the comment here. I'm trying to see if I can find it on. I was seeing it on Twitter, on social media for quite some time that he wants to return. Let me see. Ewan says they're exploring ideas for Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2. Says he wants to wear the Clone Wars armor and do more flashbacks with Hayden Christensen. That's what he said. So I don't know. I'm telling you, man, I think the more and more that he talks about it, the more and more I do think that a season 2 is going to happen. I
feel like if anyone can make it happen, it's Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair with you, this is what my worry was, in the sense of Disney sort of playing it safe, because I feel like ever since the cancellation of the Acolyte has been made, the worry of them falling back to what they simply know is now happening. If Ewan McGregor is starting to talk more and more about wanting to return, and his quotes are getting out there more and more, don't tell me that Disney ain't listening. I'm sure they probably think to themselves, people love Ewan, they would love a returning Hayden Christensen, this is going to sell regardless, let's get them back. I can easily see them going that route.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. There's a big part of me that's like worried. Specifically, the main movie I'm worried is not going to be made is the Dawn of the Jedi. And that's because, like, yeah, after one season of The Acolyte, which was like their first time exploring a completely new era, it's already canceled. And it just feels like Disney, since they always tend to take the wrong messages from something, although we may get more into this with the next topic. But because they tend to get the wrong messages from people, I could see them taking this as like no, we should stick to the already established eras and not try to explore outside of that. I hope I'm wrong. I really do, because I think a Dawn of the Jedi movie would be an incredibly cool way to take the direction of Star Wars. But yeah, that's the one I'm the most worried about.
Yeah, me too, honestly. Me too. Blossom says, I believe Disney needs to do more homework with Star Wars. Then again, so do I. Yeah, they probably definitely need to do a little bit more homework. Andor's ratings did not reflect its successful esteem. It opened with 624 million minutes before falling to 400 million range for subsequent weeks. Gilroy originally pitched the show as 5 seasons and has said it was his decision to shorten the project. It won't be surprising if Andor's ratings pop for season 2 as more casual Star Wars fans discover the show. They talk about Ahsoka a little bit in here, says that the show received positive reviews and somewhat mixed reviews from fans. A second season was announced in development in January. Production should go into development next year. The Acolyte received largely positive critic reviews, 78%, and sparked a raging culture war battle that once again exposed the ugly side of the fandom. The backlash and criticism is difficult to parse as many fans detail their creative objections to the show's storyline and its bold take on Jedi lore. Just because we didn't like this doesn't mean we're racist, basically. Some other acolytes bashers were well, clearly racist.
My thing is, if an actor from the Acolyte says that they're really annoyed with a certain fan group, like the racist fans or, you know, the angry sexist fans and something like that, if them saying that triggers you specifically, then you are probably the person that they are talking about. Because
Yeah.
yeah, because or sorry, not you as in you specifically, Adam. No, but like, I mean, like the person who is probably triggered by that statement means that they are probably the one that they are talking about. Because if you are genuinely being honest, you're given a negative review, it has nothing to do with the fact that, you know, it has nothing to do with the diverse cast, then that statement would mean nothing to you because clearly they're not talking about you.
Yeah, none of these statements ever bother me, bro. Like at all. I don't bat an eyelash to any of them. So that's 6 live action shows in 5 years. Just one has been an outright hit with critics and fans. This has delivered a multi-season run, which is traditional for models for TV success. This doesn't mean a single season of TV cannot be a win. Limited series are considered hits all the time, but there's a reason popular close-ended limited series like the debut seasons of The White Lotus and FX's Shogun were given second season orders and became original series. Making a show that can run for multiple seasons is the typical goal, even for streamers, because it encourages subscribers to stick around. There are also considerable startup costs to making something new, particularly in fantasy space. Enormous amounts of production, costume, and prop designs, and all-around world building. The Acolyte Season 1 took 4 years to make, but a second season would likely only take half that time. With an ongoing series, a company doesn't have to work so hard and spend so much to keep re-earning its audience. One would think Disney would have wanted more juice from some of these squeezes. You know, and it's funny to me, this kind of goes in part the issue that I would have when it comes to the Acolyte. You know, people would say, oh, you know, Disney spent so much money making the Acolyte, you know, why spend all that money making a season 2? Well, it wouldn't. I mean, you're not gonna spend the same amount of money for season 2. As the article states, a lot of that budget went to startup, went to creating brand new set pieces for the first time, went to creating costume designs for the first time. Coming back for a second season means getting the opportunity to recycle those things that you used from season 1, not having to then build new technology or anything like that. You can utilize what you did to make new stuff for the second season. And to be frank, Stewart, we would get a whole entire new cast for season 2. It feels like, you know, it's 2 of the biggest people on here, Carrie Ann Moss and Lee Jung Jae. You're trying to tell me like that them alone didn't blow up the budget? So those 2 actors that you would not have to pay money to, right? So the excuse of the Acolyte costs too much, that's why we shouldn't make a season 2, doesn't make any sense to me, because I do think that there are areas in which you could sort of cut costs without sort of not paying people the amount of money that they're certainly worth.
Yeah. because yeah, like you said, you know, the most expensive part of a show is really just getting it going, because that's when you're building everything and it's all there. So yeah, no, it would not have cost Disney that much money, compared relatively, I should say, to keep the show going.
And I do think once you get a better understanding of the direction you want to go with season two, maybe there's not so much outer space special effects you use. Maybe you cut back a little bit on VFX stuff, keep it a little bit more of a grounded show in certain elements, especially if you want to continue with the drama aspect or the mystery aspect of things. So I do think that there are corners that they certainly could have cut to save some money here. It says, because what is left for Disney Plus after Skeleton Crew? The final season of Andor and the second season of Ahsoka. Um, those entries back in 2020 included Lando, Rangers of the New Republic. The prospect of being left with the single ongoing live action Star Wars show after Andor concludes surely wasn't the company's hope coming out of that announcement. Hanging over all of this is the increasing suspicion that the company may have wrung out the rag, creatively speaking, on storylines culled from Lucas's original trilogy and his prequels. Even the Acolyte haters should give the show credit for telling a story that's so far removed from the Star Wars saga. This isn't entirely Disney's fault, but it's one that challenges moving forward. How do you make Star Wars feel fresh and new while still feeling like Star Wars and not say Rebel Moon? Damn, what a shot. Okay.
Knights of the Old Republic.
I mean, yeah, I mean, look, I mean, that's definitely a route that you can do. Um, but I think the point that they're making is like, bro, we literally separated ourselves from 100 years from the Skywalker saga, gave you something different, and like that still wasn't kind of good enough, would something like the Knights of the Old Republic have um a better chance? Maybe, because I do think it has name recognition and value from fans of Star Wars that have been wanting the Knights of the Old Republic for a really long time. I think it does give us the opportunity to go to another era of outside of the Skywalker saga. But then I would just be worried, Stuart, that even if we do give the fans what they want in the sense of Knights of the Old Republic, I almost feel like they'll still complain and bitch about the writing, or, oh, it doesn't hold true to what the video game did, like, or some, what I'm saying? Like, I just think people would find some reason to shit on Knights of the Old Republic also. But I would say if there is an era that probably could gather a big fan base from like all generations, it might be something along those lines. But I think that's what they were hoping for with something like the High Republic.
Mm. The thing I could see fans complaining about, which I think would be funny, is if Darth Revan does something where the fans are like, that's so out of character. Darth Revan would never do that. And then just like, he's literally an insert character. He does whatever you want him to. That is the point of Darth Revan.
It also says, and what about Disney Plus's subscriptions? Aren't subscriptions the real coin of the realm here? Disney Plus took off like a rocket in 2019, steadily climbed to peak in fourth quarter of 2022. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy, who has produced some of the most beloved and iconic movies, has overseen Star Wars franchise since 2012. Any mention of Kennedy amid a look at the Star Wars track record cannot be separated from the fact that she's been the target of hateful and ugly fandom attacks. South Park also piled on by mocking her in a recent episode. Still, Kennedy shouldn't be considered immune from criticisms, and one thing recent political headlines have showed is the myth of only if I can do it sort of leadership. Oh, only I can do it leadership.
I'll say this, like, while South Park definitely made their jokes at her expense, they also, like, kind of, the joke was also on the anti-woke crowd, who basically act like she's responsible for everything. Like, that it was an episode that purposely over exaggerated how big of a role she plays in Disney as a whole, because it shows her making all these decisions with movies that she doesn't even work on, such as like Cinderella, all the live action Disney adaptations, basically. So I didn't think that episode was dogging on her too much. Like, it pointed out a couple of things, but for the most part, it was kind of like both making fun of Disney and the anti-woke, quote unquote fans.
Yeah, I didn't catch that episode. I might have to go back and check it out for sure. It says, so let us at long last get back to that big question in the headline. Is Disney bad at Star Wars? On balance, no. Disney gave Star Wars fans what they wanted for decades, a lot more Star Wars from different visionary filmmakers, and some of it has been terrific. A dormant franchise that once followed a single dynastic storyline has exploded into a more diverse galaxy of characters and stories. Even the off-maligned sequel trilogy has sequences within each film that are inarguably stunning. For all its narrative flaws, the Rise of Skywalker farewell scene between Han Solo and Kylo Ren is as moving as anything in the canon. And shows like The Mandalorian, Andor, Rebels clear even the highest bar a hardcore fan might reasonably set. A lot of the online uproars assign audiences are at least still very engaged and care about this franchise. A truer sign of failure would be apathy and disinterest.
Mm-hmm.
But here's another question. Could Disney be better at Star Wars? Clearly, yes. The company's live action movies and TV efforts on average could and should be better. Bob Iger admitted the company made a mistake with Star Wars, making a movie a little too much too fast. After Iger temporarily left the company, they made the same error again on the TV side. Lucas famously instructed his actors to be faster and more intense, but that doesn't typically work as a franchise strategy. It's unclear if Star Wars requires more order or less, more empire like corporate oversight, or more rebellion like creative chaos. But it's long seemed like there's somehow too much of both, which has resulted in the master plan that's constantly being rewritten and content that sometimes feels undercooked and clunky. It's not the fault of fans that have increasingly have a bad feeling about this. Any criticism from the sideline, however, should be tempered with one final point. Making a successful project is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel fans, with their iconic stable of heroes who can portray by different characters, are arguably easier. Lucas created this thing and made 6 live action Star Wars films over several decades, and only his first 2 were widely considered excellent by critics and fans alike. This is also what makes more content so tempting. The original Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back were profoundly amazing and so captivating generations of fans, and have launched literally thousands of products and generated billions in direct and ancillary revenue. In 1981, Lucas changed the title for his Star Wars to A New Hope, and the name is apt. It's literally what fuels studio executives, creatives, and fans ever since. Each time another title pops open with a rousing fanfare, a scroll, and a starfield, all of us get that same feeling, A New Hope, over and over again. And that's where the article itself lands. But I do like the last point in here. That the idea that Lucas literally created this 6 films, and yet 2 of them have been widely considered excellent, Stewart. And it's one of those, it's that mindset of that I always appreciated about George Lucas, is the sense that he's got a story to tell. And the man is going to tell the story regardless if people like it or not. It clearly got to him though, because he eventually did sell the company, did sell Star Wars, in the sense of like, if people are just gonna bitch and complain about the stuff I do, like why do I want to kind of suffer through all that? But he's right. I mean, it almost feels like at every turn, um, so I'm sure some people weren't a big fan of Return of the Jedi, especially with the Ewoks. I'm sure people were probably pissed off at that. I know people really disliked the Phantom Menace, and some that disliked Attack of the Clones. But I think people definitely surround something like Revenge of the Sith with a lot of praise, if you will. But outside of Empire and maybe A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith, I mean, you could probably easily say he's like 3 for 3, maybe, for some people. I would definitely say he's more than that. But the fact that even Lucas himself, the one that created this, only had 2 of his movies sort of huge, wide successes, I think just goes to show you how tough it truly is to make a Star Wars movie, Stuart.
100% agree. Um, yeah, because like you said, people hated the prequels when they came out, and now that you get the Disney Star Wars movies, everyone suddenly is, oh no, the prequels were amazing. It's the sequels that suck. And then you know what? Years from now, we're gonna get another trilogy, and guess what's gonna happen? People are gonna be like, oh no, the original sequel trilogy was amazing. This new one sucks. It's same old cycle's gonna start again. Basically. Um, the big difference I would say though between the original trilogy and the prequel, or sorry, the sequel trilogy and the prequel trilogy, and it's something that I wish Disney did, and we've talked about this so many times before, is like the main thing is that like with George Lucas's prequel trilogy, those were clearly planned like from the start, from the moment he wrote Phantom Menace. He knew exactly how Anakin was eventually going to get turned to the dark side because of Palpatine. He set those pieces in a Phantom Menace. Basically, the pieces were there, and then they had a through line. But Force Awakens sets up pieces because this is how J.J. Abrams writes, and it works for television, but as we kind of learn, it does not work when you're doing this for movies. He writes mysteries. He doesn't have answers to these mysteries himself. He just makes these mysteries for audiences to come up with. And so when you're working with that, and then you give that project to a director who didn't work on the first one, this new director has to come up with answers for these questions that he didn't even come up with to begin with. And so he does his job. He's like, okay, well, I kind of want to focus on the story. So the mystery aspect of it, I'm just going to wrap up and just kind of like say that these questions weren't as important as these other things that we're going to be opening up. Who Snoke is doesn't matter because the main villain is Kylo Ren. Rey's parents don't matter because her whole story is, that she gets to decide her place in the universe. Her heritage should have nothing to do with that, and then episode 9, they decide to go back on all of that. So it was clearly nothing from the first movie was set up for what we got in the 9th movie. Everything, we get 3 completely different types of movies, and I think that as individual movies, they work just fine. But when you're trying to tell a cohesive trilogy story, they don't work. The sequel trilogies do not work as a trilogy. They work as 3 individual movies, whereas the prequels, I think, don't like the movies themselves are very mixed, and it's easy to see why, because the 3 individual movies that make up the prequel trilogy aren't great. They are okay. I think that Revenge of the Sith is actually pretty good, but Phantom Menace and Clone Wars are just they're okay movies by themselves. But as a trilogy, I think they work incredibly well together. They make for one really great story that was set up from the beginning and then had a through line. But yeah, so I think that's like the main thing that Disney should have done, because they should have taken the one thing about the prequels that fans really appreciated it, and they should have utilized that within the sequel trilogy. And the fact that they didn't, I think, was like one of the biggest marketing mistakes ever. I think the problem was that they saw the success of that they had with them. They knew exactly how much money they were going to be making from these movies, and I think they were like, it's our money, we want it now. We got to make back our $20 billion that we gave to George Lucas now. And so they had to pop them out like that instead of giving it like the usual 3 years, because original trilogy and prequel trilogy all had 3 years in between each movie, and I think that was a perfect amount of time to set up the cast, get a script ready to go, set up the sets, and you're good to go. But no, they really wanted to do it every 2 years, and they committed to that even when they decided to do some course correcting for episode 9, because that's the other thing too. Episode 9 did some course correcting, which we all complain about a lot. But that course correcting could have worked if they didn't rush the script out as fast as they did. But yeah. So yeah. That's where I'm kind of at with the Disney Star Wars, comparing it to what we had before with George Lucas.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you in certain aspects for sure. For me, I guess my hope is just that one, yes, making a Star Wars movie is not very easy. I think with it now being sort of like 2 or 3 like generations worth, You know, you got the older fans that grew up with the originals. You got the, you know, the 30 somethings, 20 somethings now that grew up with the prequels. And now you've got a whole generation of people that are growing up with the sequel era. You know, to think that you can just make one type of Star Wars and satisfy everybody, I think is a huge mistake. So
Mhm.
I would agree in the sense of they really need to stop being so reactionary. Because I do agree with the article itself. I do think that Lucasfilm has been good in regards to the balance that it's given us in regards to like the different types of content. Like the explosion of content, while some of it may not necessarily all be great, I do love some of the risks that they certainly have taken, whether that be something like a Star Wars Visions, or even tackling something like the Acolyte to be bold enough to take us into brand new eras. Like I want Star Wars to give us a little bit of everything, you know, something in the Empire era, something in the, you know, New Republic era, you know, give us something during the originals. Like you've got all these different eras to certainly play with. You know, my biggest fear is just the idea of when things don't necessarily go well, especially right out of the gate, that they end up being reactionary. And it feels like despite what happened for them in the sequel trilogy, it's almost like they still haven't learned their lessons yet. Like they're still doing the same old sort of mentality of allowing themselves to be reactionary instead of just following through with what their initial plans are. I mean, if George Lucas literally gave an F about what people thought, we may not have Star Wars.
Mhm.
He had a story to tell, and he went ahead and just kind of told it. So, you know, I do hope that they take a step back. I hope they don't learn the terrible lessons from this, but it feels like they might. You know, the Skeleton Crew. I've been hearing it's supposed to be having a spin-off, or even though it's only meant to be one season, they may try and get Jude Law to come back and do a second season for all we know. And then the idea of returning Ewan McGregor potentially as Obi-Wan for a season two, the fact that he says that they're even talking about it makes me think that one, we learned the wrong lesson in the sense of being fearful that women and people of diversity can't carry their own show, and when it's not received well, we just quit on it, and then we go back to straight white males in our lead show for Skeleton Crew, and also for an Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And not only straight white male, but also going back to an era that we're familiar with, characters that we're familiar with, stuck inside the same time era that we have been before. And again, I got nothing against straight white males. I'm just pointing out the idea that it seems as though it's really tough for Star Wars to be creative and diverse and tell compelling stories in different parts of the universe, when they are as reactionary about things as they can be. And so I just think I do like the idea of what the article stated about it being so, like, I don't want to say too many chefs in the kitchen, but the sense of the same mistake that Marvel made of just trying to create too much content and really dwindling down sort of the quality of it. You know, I don't know. I personally don't feel like the quality has suffered because they're pushing a message or an agenda or anything like that. I think it's the idea that you are trying to put out too much content and you're not necessarily focusing on just the quality of it. And so I don't mind Star Wars taking their time. I just don't want them to be reactionary. And two, stick to your plans. If
Mhm.
you have a story to tell, tell the story. And so, do I think Disney is bad at Star Wars? No, I don't. But do I think that they could get better? Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, definitely. I think I'm happy, or yeah, I'd say I'm happy where Star Wars is at. But yes, there is always room for improvement in everything that we listed, pretty much.
I don't know if I'm happy with where Star Wars is at right now. I'm very much on the fence of my excitement level for things is not where it certainly used to be anymore. Like I definitely used to or and Skeleton Crew, but outside of that, I'm really hesitant on anything that Star Wars kind of announces right now. And I think that's probably my algorithm on Twitter and social media, just all the negativity from Star Wars fans at times, and then just the inability to lead by Lucasfilm and just stick to your game plan. And just like why would I want to get invested in something new? Like why would I? It's hard to get excited.
Yeah, so I should correct myself. What I meant to say is I'm happy with what we've gotten so far from Disney.
Oh, uh-huh.
But yeah, I would definitely agree. Like in the state of where things are now with them constantly, even more so now than ever before, like constantly scrapping projects. Yeah, that is definitely the big disappointment because now it's like nearly impossible to get excited for something because when you do, you don't know for sure if you're even going to get it or if it's just going to become another thing that Disney decides to scrap later on. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And if anything, I do think that this oops, hold on a second. Did I cancel that? Yeah. If anything, I do think that this conversation does lead into sort of the bigger picture here of
Mhm.
how Hollywood in general is kind of tackling this, and that's in regards to the toxic fandom of things. And I do want to put a disclaimer on here. Just because we're talking about toxic fandom, guys, doesn't mean we're talking about you. All right. So like, don't take this personal if if this does not line up with who you are. Certainly as a fan, but it is hard to ignore the idea that the loud minority of toxic fandom continues to be outraged on social media and stuff. So, you guys, my highlight and advice would be if you're not on social media, good, stay off of social media. Don't let it corrupt. Don't let it corrupt your brain, because it certainly is for some. But I thought this is an interesting article here, Stuart. We talk about production companies and studios being reactionary, and I think this is a really great example of that. Variety says toxic fandom, how Hollywood is battling fans who are just out for blood, from social media boot camps to super fan focus groups. What? Um August 28th, Amanda Stenberg, the lead of the Star Wars series The Acolyte, posted an 8.5-minute video to her Instagram story. She says, "It's not a huge shock for me," talking about the cancellation. Since the series was announced in 2020, she continued, "We started experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper conservative bigotry and vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language towards us. In other words, the Acolyte was the latest high profile target of toxic fandom, the catch all term for when criticism curdles from good faith dissatisfaction into relentlessly negative, often bigoted online campaign against either the project or its stars or creative leaders." And I think that's a really great way of defining toxic fandom, right? Where it goes from fan criticisms from good faith dissatisfaction, but eventually it turns into a relentless negative and often bigoted online campaign. In a franchise economy increasingly dependent upon established audiences, devotions to drive the bottom line, the threat of toxic fandoms poisoning that enthusiasm has become a seemingly intractable headache for almost every studio, and it's only getting worse, Stuart.
Mhm.
Um, it says it comes with the territory, but it's gotten incredibly loud in the past couple of years, says a veteran marketing executive at a major studio. People are just out for blood regardless. They think the purity of the first version will never be replaced, or you've done something to upset the canon of a beloved franchise, and they're going to take you down for doing so. Sometimes, and stop me if you want to chime in. Sometimes toxic fandoms behave reactively. House of the Dragon episode featuring two females kissing, and an episode of The Last of Us focusing on a gay couple were both review bombed. The practice of mobbing sites like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb with negative user reviews, which gained mainstream attention following the 2017 Star Wars The Last Jedi. An entire YouTube ecosystem is devoted to declaring projects like The Marvels and The Boys woke garbage. Just as frequently, the backlash.
They finally learned that The Boys is woke. I'm so proud of these anti-wokers. Like, good for you. It took you 4 seasons.
Just as frequently, the backlash begins from the project has seen before the project has seen the light of day. A Reddit mega thread dedicated to outrage over Bridgerton, casting a black woman as the love interest. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, the death threats aimed at Leslie Jones during the press tour on Ghostbusters. Perhaps the greatest irony of this phenomena is the disproportionate. Yes, come on. What's going on with this website today, bro? Hello, where are you? Sorry, Stewart. This damn thing is like bothering the fuck out of me today. Why is this doing this right now?
It's like the website itself has ADHD. It's like, no, read this part.
Yeah, and then read this part next, and then read this part next. Okay, perhaps the greatest irony in this phenomenon is the disproportionate impact these toxic fandoms have relative to the actual numbers. Damn it did it again. I just had it here. This website hates me, bro. I was almost there. The vast majority of any fandom are casual fans. The number of people who live and die on their franchises are very, very few. And then those who come after things that they espouse to love with venom are a really, really tiny subset of that already smaller subset of fandom. It's just much easier to see it now. I don't know that it's really that much broader than where things were in 1995. It's just that bullhorn wasn't there. And I kind of agree with that. I think the internet and social media has just given them the opportunity to speak louder. But I think these fans have probably been around since the creation of the Phantom Menace, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that now that they have social media, it's easier for them to be louder.
Literally, this is something my brother and I were talking about. With social media, if like social media was around in the 90s, undoubtedly exactly what you get online with the discourse with fans would definitely have been around there. It would have been, and you look at how just Phantom Menace alone, even though we didn't even have Twitter or Facebook back then, the actor who the motion cap and voice actor for Jar Jar Binks ended up getting so many death threats to the point where he almost wanted to take his own life. And then same with the kid that played Anakin Skywalker. I think like there was a recent article that came out from his mom saying that he already had like some mental struggles as it was, but adding that with like all the people that are giving him crap for doing his job, as a little kid, and then blaming him for ruining, everyone's favorite villain. Like, yeah, and that was all before social media. So just like you can only imagine how much worse that would have been if social media had been around like during the 90s.
Yeah, I do like that it points out that most fans tend to be just casual fans, that it really is just a small subset of fans that are like this.
Yeah.
For some, combating that bullhorn amounts to acting as if they can't hear it, particularly when it's a negative, toxic conversation. We don't even engage, says a TV marketing executive. Like with toxic people, you try not to give it too much oxygen. One principal concern is that reacting to these kind of attacks risks alienating fans who are unhappy with creative choices about a franchise, but haven't tipped over into abusive behavior. So a studio may attempt to amplify friendlier voices instead. We'll reply to comments that are positive and elevate those things, says a TV executive. Still, toxic fandoms have grown so pernicious that they've become a fact of life for many, and so powerful that while talent, executives, and publicists will privately bemoan the issue, fear of inadvertently triggering another backlash kept several studios from speaking for this story, even on background, saying that it's just a lose lose situation. Those who did talk with Variety all agree that the best defense is to avoid provoking fandoms in the first place. In addition to standard focus group testing, studios will assemble a specialized cluster of superfans to assess possible marketing materials for a major franchise project. That just sounds disastrous as fuck to me.
Okay, here's the thing of why I'm like mixed on the idea of this. I hate the reason that they're putting this together. But at the same time, this is something that franchises, specifically Star Trek, has been doing for years. So it's weird because I always thought this was just a standard that they did in general when it came to adaptations. So I'm okay with something like this happening, like putting together like a group whose specific job is to make sure that that everything that that's being put together doesn't go against like the overall message, the overall continuity, or things that fans the main things that fans hold close to them for these franchises. But if it's a reaction to the toxic fandom, I think that's a terrible reason to do it. And I think that if they were going to put something like this together, they should have done it without announcing it and making those same toxic fans feel like they won.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I mean, look, there's a part of me that does believe, like, look, if you've got somebody that's on the project, they should have some level of understanding about the franchise that they're coming into, whether the creators themselves are fans of it. I think they should at least understand the world that they're coming into. I mean, if you already have a standard focus group testing, which probably already tests sort of the general audience members as to how they feel about a movie. For me personally, that's the only sort of focus group testing that I certainly need. I think the idea of specializing a cluster of super fans to assess possible marketing materials um for a major franchise project, for me, I just feel like that's just getting into the unnecessary things. I don't necessarily know if I need super fans to have a say in the creative direction that a movie goes. I rather have the person that's actually writing and directing or being cast in the role to be that fan of understanding their limitations, and then having somebody like a Dave Filoni who is truly a fan
Mm-hmm.
to sort of have the guidelines and the barriers up to help contain some of these creators in the world that they want to contain. But to get a focus group of super fans on top of your standard focus testing group, I just think you're doing too much. Then I just think you're doing too much and causing more headaches for yourself than anything. But that could just be me. It says, oh, go ahead, Stuart.
Huh? Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like, instead of like like a full on focus group, I was thinking like do what Star Trek has been doing for years. You get some Star Trek fans that also are like themselves, like writers in some way, shape, or form. You have them be the ones who like look over the scripts and look over to before starting the film, because like focus group, if you do it that way, it sounds like you've already paid a lot of money into a project and it's already like mostly complete by the time you're showing it to them. And so if there's like a major change you need to make, because you want to listen to them, that feels like it's just going to cost you an unnecessary large amount of money that you could have avoided.
They do say the super fan focus group basis is they're very vocal. They will just tell us if you do that, fans are going to retaliate. These groups have even led studios to alter their projects. It's that early enough and the movie isn't finished yet, we can make those kinds of changes. Several
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that explains a little bit more. Several studio
Yeah.
insiders say they often put their talent through social media boot camp in some cases. When a character is intentionally challenging a franchise's status quo, students will, with the actor's permission, take over their social media accounts entirely. When things get really bad, especially involving threats of violence, security firms will scrub talent information from the internet to protect them from doxing. That's pretty insane to me. First, let me look. They're very vocal. They will just tell us if you do that, fans are going to retaliate. I just don't like that mindset. Like, and I mean the mindset of, these are groups that have led studios to alter the projects. If it's early enough in the movie isn't finished yet, we can make those kinds of changes. And I get the idea of like, um, wanting to not cause as much backlash as possible. But I guess for me, the question would then be, well, how do you know fans are going to retaliate? Like, what are they retaliating against? Is it because you've got a gay character? Oh, you can't make them gay. They're going to retaliate. So you're like, okay, this person isn't gay, so they alter the project. Is it, oh, our main lead is a black female? Oh, no, you know what? No. Fans are probably going to retaliate against that. That's a woke sign. That's a woke sign. You might want to alter that. And so then they alternate. And what does that mean? A person of color doesn't get an opportunity, even though they're qualified for the position of being a great actor for that role. Like it's things like that I don't that like what are the guidelines for what fans will retaliate against and not. And if that's becoming a thing of, well, that's not the story that we wanted to tell, but to make sure that fans don't retaliate, let's take this really great story that we have and let's mold it and shape it into something that it's not, in order to please a fan base. Like, why do they get to dictate what the rest of us in the fandom might want to watch? You know what I'm saying? Like, just that idea of being fearful and scared that there's going to be backlash, I think is just automatically hindering you and clearly altering your projects that you want to watch. Who's to say? Well, who is to say that they didn't have sort of like this super fan base for the Obi-Wan Kenobi limited series? Who's to say that the Obi-Wan series could have been 10 times better had we not gotten a super fan base that told Disney, hey, you don't do that, fans are going to retaliate, and then we wind up getting this lukewarm, mediocre Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I'm just using that as an example as to how we could have great things, but a super fan base group has the ability of changing and taking away something great from us because we don't want to upset anybody. I just think that's a really terrible mindset as a studio to have.
Yeah. Look at The Dark Knight, for example. I think objectively anyone can say this is one of the most successful Batman stories like ever written, right? Ever, or successful Batman movies ever made, right? And I think that objectively a lot of people really, really liked Heath Ledger's Joker, right? If Christopher Nolan listened to the fans, when it was announced that he was going to be playing the Joker, we wouldn't have gotten him as a Joker, because everyone said that he was going to be doing terrible. Fans of Batman were like, no, he will ruin the Joker. This is not going to make a good movie. What did we end up getting? One of the most incredible Batman films ever made, with one of the most amazing performances as the Joker. So yeah, I do think that like straight up having a focus group, wouldn't be the smartest idea, kind of putting it in the way that the article described. Because I think that when I saw the headline of the article, I had a very different thought in mind. I was thinking like a group that like kind of, looks through a script, gives notes, and then that's kind of about as far as it goes. But yeah, kind of like hearing it through this kind of perspective, it's like, yeah, this could lead to essentially like every good risk that Hollywood's taken, not happening because of the chance of that there might be a backlash from it.
And this is when you say something like, one of the movies that you want to see is James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi. Like, this is one of those movies that I think potentially could be like on the chopping block of too much of a creative risks. I
Mhm.
mean, if we're upset about how Disney portrays the Jedi literally 50 to 100 years before the Phantom Menace, like how would a fan base that loves George Lucas and his world that he's created accept the concept that Disney might come up with in regards to the beginnings of the Force 10,000 years ago, or how one particular person 10,000 years ago might have viewed the Force? Like, if I'm in this fan super group, I'm like, I don't know, fans might retaliate against something like that. I mean, they have their own belief system as to where the Force comes from and how it works. If you give them this other concept, I don't know, you might get some backlash, and then the studios are like, oh, you know what, maybe these super fans are right. Maybe, we shouldn't explore this because they're just gonna get in an uproar. I mean, God, we were gonna bring in this this Middle Eastern guy to play our main lead character here. Heaven forbid we get a Middle Eastern main lead be part of the Dawn of the Jedi movie. That might upset some fans too, right? Like, it's just that mindset of, if it's risky, if it's new, if it's expansive in any way, I am definitely becoming fearful that they will do their best to avoid getting people upset, instead of just trying to, I don't want to say push the envelope, but just tell the story that you want to tell, man. I just hate the fearfulness that studios have now gotten.
Yeah.
Um and you can go on and read this a little bit more if you want for yourselves, guys. I just wanted to bring up oh, here, let me. So they talked a little bit about here. It says several studio insiders say that they often put their talent through social media boot camp. He says in some particular cases, a direct response has been necessary. Actor Moses Ingram from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series denounced the hundreds of racist messages sent to her about her role. There's nothing anybody can do about this. There's nothing anybody can do to stop this hate, she says. Lucasfilm posted a statement where they did stand up for her. And I think even Ewan McGregor said something too, made him sick to his stomach. He made a comment. Later this year, the cast of The Rings of Power condemned the relentless racism, threats, harassment, and abuse some of our castmates of color are being subjected to on a daily basis. Um, Let me see. Those efforts may have had some sort of effect in regards to studios reaching out and saying something. In an August interview, Amazon MGM studio TV chief Vernon Sanders said the show hadn't experienced the same racist hostilities in advance of season 2 that had been greeted in its 2022 debut. People have had a chance to actually engage with the show. Overwhelmingly, what we've seen is that folks who come with an open mind can discuss and debate their favorite things, which takes you out of the place of that ugly conversation that happened with some folks who may not have been infused with an agenda that that's separate from the show itself. And I think the idea too here that we see them continuing on with the show into a season 2, one, they are getting less threats than what they did, but they also not only learned from their own personal mistakes from season 2, but they made corrections. They made a better season, and a lot of the hate that they got from season 1 has certainly subsided when it comes to season 2. It's definitely still there. Don't get me wrong. I see
Mhm.
it firsthand in a lot of the Rings of Power stuff that I produce and I certainly put out. So it's definitely there. But the idea that they gave their show not only time to breathe, but to expand upon it, in turn, not only brought fans back for something like The Rings of Power season 2, but I think it's quieted some of the naysayers that are certainly out there, which is one of the reasons, Stuart, why I continue to think, and especially when you look up things about the Acolyte, I'm finding the Acolyte popping up on a lot of like top 10, top 20 favorite shows of 2024. Like, the Acolyte is making a lot of people's lists in regards to being some of their favorite shows. Not so much because it's they think it's a perfect season, but I think the idea that Lucasfilm took a risk, created something in a brand new era, and had something creatively unique, even though it didn't necessarily hit every aspect that I think it wanted to. I think it created sort of a solid base for itself that you could expand upon, and I think make a better season two, and maybe keep some of those naysayers back and get a little bit quieter with each sort of subsequent season that you wind up having after that. And that's why I think the cancellation of the Acolyte is such a tremendous sort of just a terrible decision, I think, on Lucasfilm's part in regards to hurting the franchise a little bit more. I think a show like that needs time to breathe.
Agreed. I think the Acolyte really could have been Disney Plus's Rings of Power, because I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Like, the Rings of Power got so much crap the first season, which, while for me personally, like, I wasn't the biggest fan, and it was mostly just because I just if I'm being honest, I was kind of bored throughout a good chunk of season one. Not all of it, but a decent amount of it. But season two has been such an improvement. And it makes me so happy that they didn't decide to scrap it after the first season, because I am so hooked on season two, really enjoying what's going on. And it just kind of shows some shows need room to breathe, and that is totally fine. They need room to, like, find their footing, figure out what exactly direction they want to go in, and that's totally fine. That used to be the standard for television. It used to be common for shows to have a really bad first season, but then they would just get better as they kept going. But that's just not a thing that happens anymore. Now it's like, if you get a bad first season, you're kind of done. That's it. No second chance. If Star Trek The Next Generation was made today, it wouldn't have gotten its 7 seasons, because the first season was not very good. Same with Deep Space Nine, I think Deep Space Nine had a solid first season, but Voyager, same thing. First season, not very good. It would not have gotten renewed, for 6 more seasons afterwards if it was made today. So yeah, I think it sucks, for television shows. Like, if the first season doesn't hit it with everyone, the chances of getting renewed are pretty low. And the thing is, if your show isn't perfect and it has a diverse cast, you're going to have the, really big bigots out there, targeting your show. And when they target your show, that's what causes their fans to watch it, and then their fans end up, like, spreading the misinformation about the show to their friends, and then that's what causes all this this giant, like, wave of backlash from people who haven't even seen the show.
Yeah, I mean, I do see a lot of people on social media in my algorithm that just pops up and they're like, look, I'm not really vocal about television shows or movies on here, but I just finished watching The Rings of Power season 2 or season 1, or I just finished watching The Acolyte, and, like, what the fuck were people talking about? Like,
Exactly.
I see just these random people. They don't really have a ton of followers. They don't really talk about a lot of media content. They're really outsiders kind of looking in your general audience, and they're looking around wondering, like, what are y'all talking about in regards to, like, how much you guys been hating on some of these shows? Granted, they're not perfect, but my goodness, the fact that they didn't have at least a good established base to create and grow and expand and improve. I would agree with you. I think the streaming service that we're in right now has just really destroyed television, in that sense of not allowing these shows to breathe anymore. You're asking them to make hits within 6 to 8 episodes, maybe 10 if you're lucky. And if it doesn't line the pockets sort of the shareholders to your streaming service and your stock market immediately, then it's like it's not a success to them. Unfortunately, it's just that underlying dollar. We got to make that money now. Our shareholders demand it. We got to keep making more and more and more in order to get this money. And I think at some point in time, you got to get your selfishness out of the way and try and greed and get back to what made your movies and your television shows successful. And that's really taking your time to not only create, but keep your head down. Don't listen to outside, noise, and just create what you want to create. There was a really great, I'm really glad that this article dropped this week too, Stewart. Like, after all the talk about, is Disney bad with Star Wars? How is Hollywood handling the fandom and things like that? I found this article really interesting that dropped from comicbook.com. It says Pixar CEO reveals the surprising advice. Hey, I
Oh,
can never. How do you pronounce his name?
I think it's Heyo.
Miyazaki gave him. And for those of you who don't know, God damn it, I'm butchering this guy's name so badly.
I always just call him
Miyazaki.
by his last name,
Yeah, if
Miyazaki.
you don't know Miyazaki, he just won an Emmy, or I should say an Oscar for Best Animated Film from The Boy and the Heron. He also did Princess Mononoke, My Neighbor Totoro, and a ton more. I mean, this guy is literally a legendary filmmaker. He says, the Pixar CEO, doctor, shared that he had once had a conversation with Miyazaki, asking the creator of such of those films, "How do you make changes for you, and when do you make change?" Oh, he says, "When do you make changes for you, and when do you make changes for the audience?" And Stuart, you know what he said? He says, "I never think about the audience." I never think about the audience. And I've been saying that for a really long time. I'm not even a screenwriter, and I've been screaming to the high heavens on the top of this mountain. Make the stories that you want to make. Why are you listening to the audience? Why? And for me personally, for somebody that has made incredible films like Princess Mononoke and The Boy and the Heron, I think Miyazaki is somebody that I think advice should certainly be taken from.
Mhm.
Especially one, because I've never written a screenplay in my life. I've never made a film in my life. Like, if there's anybody that knows what they're talking about, it's Miyazaki. And so the fact that his advice to when do you make changes for you and when do you make changes for the audiences, I never think about the audience. And I think that's something that every creator should certainly pay attention to, because look, you can get all the greatest super fans in one room together. I can almost guarantee you they're all not going to agree on the same thing. They're all going to have different things that they certainly want to see from the fandom, or from the franchise. I'm sure if you gave some of these super fans exactly what they wanted, they would come back to you and say, but it's not quite how I wanted it, though. And they're just going to continue to move the goalposts further and further. Now, look, am I saying like you don't take fan criticisms, like aren't open-minded about it? Absolutely not, because I do think that there is value, and especially after you've created the season one or you've done a movie, to kind of take a step back and just hear what people are saying, to just at least hear what they're saying. And then based off of that, make the movie, change course, correct whatever you want to. But the idea of like, oh, hey, that person's idea, I think that person's idea is better than mine, so I'm going to change it around and make this movie for this group of people. No, it's a terrible idea, because then you'll make a movie for that group of people, but then what about the rest of the people that wanted something completely different? So this idea of trying to please everybody and listening to fans and listening to audience members, don't do it, man. Don't do it. If you have a story that you think is compelling, if the people around you tell you this script is incredible, as long as there's not a bunch of yes men around you, please keep your head down and just make the stories that you want to make. And trust me, they will gain their audience, and allow your creators to breathe and continue to expand on what they are in fact creating. And if we can get out of this reactionary measure, then maybe we'll be good. But again, Stuart, I think Hollywood learns all the wrong reasons, bro.
They do. Um Yeah, I look at like one moment in particular. Now, I didn't watch the show past the first season, which I thought the first season was good, but I lost interest so fast in season two, and that is Westworld. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
Westworld is an example of why you do not listen to the fans, because what happened is one of the writers on the show just happened to be listening to fans on Reddit, and the fans weren't even like trying to make this like a huge public, like they weren't like trying to make videos about it, they weren't trying to like repost it everywhere, they were just having a casual conversation about the show Westworld, and the a couple predictions that they had just happened to be correct. And when they saw all these predictions that were correct, they decided to just rewrite the entire season, basically,
Wow.
because they didn't want like fans to be able to guess where it was going. And because of that, you had a very incoherent season, from what I hear. Again, didn't watch past season 1, so I don't know. But yeah, from what I hear, the story gets really like convoluted, and it's because they didn't plan for it. They didn't want the story to go in this direction, but this is, they heard that fans could guess how it was going, and they were like, no, we can't have this. So yeah, I look at examples like that of why, yeah, it's a good idea to an extent to like, know what your audience wants, of course. And in my film school, we always said give the audience what they want or expect, but not the way they expect it or the way they want
Yes.
it.
Yes. I think that's perfectly said. I think that's perfectly said. Nothing wrong with giving the fans what they want, but there's a difference between giving it to them exactly as they want and having the concept of like, okay, I think I know what, they might like, and then creating and crafting the story that you want to tell that might fit within that particular realm. But this idea of like already having a focus group, but then having to have another group of people that consider themselves fans to like warn you as to what might irritate or like get people all irate and upset, sort of thing. Like, why are we creating like that? That's just creative handcuffs, if you ask me. So I think we're moving backwards here. But we'll see, man. Guys, look, we've had 2 really impactful articles here from the Hollywood Reporter. Is Disney good at Star Wars? How Hollywood is also handling toxic fandoms. What do you guys feel like when it comes to super fan focus groups? Are they needed? Should creators not necessarily listen to themselves so much? Should they listen to fans more? Should they just keep their head down, and just make the movie or television show that they certainly want to make? Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. I'm sure we'll probably all have different points of view and perspectives of that. But yeah, let us certainly know your thoughts in the comment section box below.
Mm-hmm.
And with that out of the way, Stuart, we will get into more of our DC and Marvel talk for you guys today. We're going to change course and have some fun here when it comes to DC Studios, because, boy, Stuart, James Gunn had a huge announcement for us this week, man. We are still awaiting New York Comic-Con, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's like next week or within like a 2-week period. So we should certainly have more information to discuss, as I'm assuming James Gunn will certainly have some big reveals for us from New York Comic-Con. But ahead of New York Comic-Con, we had a huge announcement that when it comes to DC Studios, we are getting ourselves a brand new animated film. And Stuart, I don't know if this is going to be Elseworlds. I don't know if this is going to be part of the DCU, but James Gunn and Warner Brothers Animation has announced Dynamic Duo, baby. Dynamic Duo. Let's go ahead and give you guys all the details that we know so far about this upcoming project. This actually comes to us from Deadline.com, letting us know that the Robin's origin story, Dynamic Duo, in the works with DC Studios, WBPA, and Sixth in Idaho, movie to be made with puppeteery animation. That's right. We're going to be getting ourselves a Robin's origin story with puppeteer animation. This is an exclusive exclusive article. Here's a really cool project that just got greenlit at DC Studios. Dynamic Duo. It will be the first joint project between DC Studios and Warner Brothers PA. It says the Sixth in Idaho movie, scripted by Matthew Aldrich, is being made by a new animation studio out of New Orleans named Swaybox. Swaybox Studios. And that studio's husband and wife creators, Arthur Mintz and Teresa Anderson. Mintz will direct this movie, which follows the early days of Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, aka the Robins. Note the storyline here isn't connected to the Matt Reeves Batman or the Penguin canon. So if this is going to be Elseworlds, it's not going to be part of Matt Reeves Batman or the Penguin canon. Whether or not this is going to be its own individual thing or part of DCU, we'll have to find out. But it says Swaybox,
uses a technology known as Momo animation, which is a cross between CGI animation and practical elements of stop motion and live action real time performance. The result is a long form storytelling billed as visually breathtaking, dynamically expressive, and more human. Um, it does say here, who is this? Is this Matt Reeves? I don't know. Somebody is saying this. I have wanted to make a film with Arthur and Swaybox for many years, and for that film to be dynamic duo, an incredibly special and unique Batman and Robin story for families is a dream. Is that Matt Reeves? Matt Reeves might be working on this too, even though it's outside of his project.
I think I saw like in another article that I was reading that he is involved with the project. But yeah, it's definitely like they said earlier, not involved in the DC or sorry, it's not involved in the Matt Reeves universe.
Yeah, it feels like if anything, he probably would be on at it as an executive producer. Says the project news comes in the wake of DC Studios, HBO, and Max series, The Penguin landing the biggest 4-day audience series for Max. But yeah, it looks like we're going to be getting ourselves a Robin's origin story here from none other than Dynamic from Swaybox Studios and DC Studios, titled Dynamic Duo. Stuart, have you personally had an opportunity to see what the animation style for this tends to be for Swaybox? Have you seen what some of their work is like?
I have not.
Here, let me bring this up here for you guys. They had a really great presentation. I don't know when this was filmed, but here's a great sort of little reel here to give you an idea as to the animation style that Swaybox brings, and to really get an idea of what the Robin series or the Robin movie is going to look like. But here we go.
So look, when Haggerty shows up, I'll grab him quick and tell him how he can fit into the campaign.
Hey, I don't know that we need to do that.
You think so?
I do.
Okay, you're the man.
Everyone, this is Mr. Haggerty. Mr. Haggerty, I'd like you to meet our campaign staff. Everyone, please just call me Bill.
Of course, this is my brother and his campaign manager, Ben.
You did talk to your brother, right?
Yeah.
I think this would be a good opportunity to fill you in on the campaign.
Yeah, I know the details. It's my plan. That's why your brother brought me here to manage the campaign.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is their puppeteer animation.
Like that looks incredible, like very smooth, and then there's a lot of attention to detail with the miniature sets that they've built for this, and then something it's really hard to do with puppets is like their faces feel expressive. Like the moment like the guy tells him your brother already hired me as his campaign manager, and you see that like pause on his face, it's like you know what he's thinking. Like that's incredible that you can, like, with live action actors, obviously every scene will play out that way. You'll know what someone's thinking because it's easy to film someone and be like, hey, look sad, look angry. But with a puppet, that, oh my god, that is great. If that is the quality that they're going to be bringing to the dynamic duo, dude, I am even more hyped than I already was.
Yeah, man. I got the opportunity to check out that animation. And I thought to myself, wow, like that's amazing to me. They actually also did, I don't remember if you recall this. I think it was a Super Bowl spot that they did a couple years ago. It might have been back in 2022, where they had like these puppets of NFL players like coming through the TV set and then like running around a household sort of thing. Sway Box Studio actually did that one as well. Here, let me bring
You
this up if I
lose.
can.
Super Bowl champions once again. Oh, it's not over yet.
Snap to Lamar. It's too high. Never seen this before.
Live ball. Step aside, sir.
Henry's got it.
Game on.
Here comes Prime. What a hit. Lamar cuts back.
I mean, have you seen this commercial before?
That's so weird. I watch the Super Bowl every year, but I don't remember this one.
I just think when it comes to their animation, their ability to be able to put this into like a live action form the way that they are really like just blows me away. If this is going to be a mixture of like CGI, live action, puppeteering, and things like that, stop motion, I agree with you, Stuart. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. In regards to like, especially in like a movie form, to be able to get something like this. This looks like it's going to be really fun and creative and bold, and that's definitely the types of decisions I want to see James Gunn try and make and create for this particular DCU world. So there's a part of me, I'm hoping that this is sort of like a prequel to the DC. I'm hoping this is a prequel to something like a Brave and the Bold, but from an animation perspective, Stuart, this blows me away, man.
Yeah, agreed. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to assume that this will be part of James Gunn's DC universe, because he did mention before that there would be theatrical animated movies that would still come out. So I'm hoping this is one of those. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll still watch it if it's a standalone. I'll still be excited, but it would just be kind of cool to like add different like layers to that DC universe.
Yeah, I totally agree. What do you think about the idea of it being a Robin origin story? I am kind of curious. I guess for me, when it comes to the idea of it being a Robin origin story, I am kind of curious if like they'll take liberties in regards to what Dick Grayson's origin is. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Batman that winds up discovering Jason Todd, trying to lift the tires or the wheels off the Batmobile, sort of thing. So I do wonder if this is this a case of like Dick Grayson discovering Jason Todd and bringing them along, or is this going to be like a tale of, Jason Todd, a new sort of new freshly discovered Robin, and Dick Grayson kind of taking him under his wing and sort of like teaching him what it means to be a Robin? Or will this be like two origin stories of, I don't want to say like an anthology, but going back and forth from Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, and then maybe making the tale meet up with each other towards the end? I'm not quite sure how they're going to tackle this, but based off of the animation, based off of the idea that we are getting a Dick Grayson and a Jason Todd, I think this is going to be a really fun project, and one that I'm hoping is connected to the bigger picture of the DCU, as sort of like a lead into something like the Brave and the Bold at some point in time. But what are your hopes for this, Stuart?
Yeah, I hope that if it's an origin movie, that it's either an origin movie for Jason Todd, where like Nightwing is kind of the mentor, or I guess maybe he's still Robin at this point, but where Dick Grayson is basically the mentor to Jason Todd instead of Batman. Or if it's an origin for both of them, I kind of hope the movie starts kind of in a Deadpool way, in the sense that they're both already established as Robins, or Robin and Nightwing, or however they want to do it that way. Where they're both already established as superheroes, but we learn about their origins through flashbacks and things like that. I hope it's not like they completely rechange it, so like both of their origins just happen near the same time. Just because I like accuracy to the comic books, so I feel like that would be a huge change in the dynamic, not just between the two of them, but also their dynamic with Batman and the Bat family altogether. So, like, I wouldn't be mad if they did it that way. I would just kind of be concerned. I guess I would just be like, why change it this much? But yeah, like that's kind of my hope, is that we get like kind of somewhat of a comic book accurate origin story with some, of course, creative twists here and there. Of course, I don't want it to be one for one like the comics. And I really look forward to seeing, because Jason Todd's first appearance in the comic books was way too much like Dick Grayson. He was essentially just Dick Grayson with a different name, essentially. And it wasn't until they brought him back as the Red Hood where they kind of rewrote his origins. They rewrote kind of like the type of Robin that he was when he worked under Batman. And I hope we have something like that in Dynamic Duo. Like you have Dick Grayson, for example, who might be acting more like Batman in the sense that, he doesn't kill. He takes hits when he's fighting people. He's not super lethal. He just hits just enough to keep him down. But then you can have Jason Todd, kind of like the way they did it in the Titans live action show, where he is enjoying it just a little bit too much, and he goes a little bit too far in the way he takes people down.
Yeah, I do hope that they don't go too far from the original origin. Look, leave it up to James Gunn, though, I think, to be as accurate with this stuff as he possibly can. I think he's been doing a pretty good job with it so far, but I will be interested to see how they make this story of these two Robins certainly work, especially in the form of an origin story. But yeah, we'll see where this leads us. If this leads us into bigger things for the DCU down the line. But appreciate the risk animation wise and the big swing that DC Studios and James Gunn is certainly taking here. So maybe they'll talk a little bit more about it at New York City Comic-Con, but we'll definitely keep you guys posted on any new developments.
Yeah. Sorry, one last thing that just popped in my head. So I remember a while ago, there was the Batman Beyond movie that ended up getting scrapped. And from the screenshots we saw of it, it kind of looked like it was trying to be Warner Brothers' own version of Into the Spider-Verse, but with Batman. Because you look at the art and the animation, it looked almost like they were just going to try to go for Into the Spider-Verse. I do appreciate that this seems like they also want to have their own kind of, Spider-Verse, but for DC. But unlike Batman Beyond, they're not just copying what Spider-Verse did. They're making their own Spider-Verse by giving it something unique that Spider-Verse didn't have going for, that other animated movies don't really have for, and by hiring this new studio to work on the project.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This definitely does feel like right up that alley of taking a creative risk like the Into the Spider-Verse when it comes to the animation side of things. Because I remember watching that, thinking to myself, like, man, I don't know if I've seen animation like this. And the way that they were able to make it pop, especially in something like on a 3D screen, it definitely worked for Into the Spider-Verse. So yeah, maybe this is James Gunn's attempt at getting like a new form of animation, right on the brink of really exploding and doing some really great things and putting together a stellar story here. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to get some big things from this for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on DC Studios and Swaybox teaming together. And we will go from one DC, well, potentially DCU project to one that we know for sure is happening. And that is, in fact, Green Lantern, baby. Green Lantern is back on the news. Stewart, I feel like we've been talking a lot about lanterns the past couple of weeks here as the production and pre-production for Green Lanterns continues to really kick off. A couple of weeks ago, or last week, I believe we had the announcement that Kyle Chandler is in talks to play Hal Jordan. He will be Hal Jordan, Green Lantern in the Lantern series. That's going to have its True Detective vibes from the DC Studios. Filming is set to go ahead and begin this upcoming January 2025. But we do have an update, Stewart, not just in regards to casting, but also some development on the director side of things. So let's go ahead and dive into this. We told you guys we were going to keep you guys up to date with any big announcements from Lanterns, and we're definitely staying true to that. This one comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, letting us know that Lanterns sets Slow Horses Helmer James Hawes to direct the first block of episodes. So they have announced their very first director for the first 2 episodes of Lanterns, and that will be James Hawes. It does have some new details too for the series for us, but it does say a director for DC Studios Lanterns has been found. James Haas, an established TV helmer who most recently directed a string of episodes of the Gary Oldman spy series Slow Horses, has been tapped to helm the first 2 episodes of the sci-fi cop series. Lanterns is said to have a gritty true detective vibe and follows Hal Jordan, a legend amongst the space police force known as the Green Lanterns, as he reluctantly mentors a younger Green Lantern in John Stewart. The 2 intergalactic cops get drawn into a dark Earth-based mystery as they navigate a murder in the American heartland. This show is in the midst of casting the final of the 2 leads. Kyle Chandler is set to star as the Lantern Jordan. Oops. And it does say HBO and DC has narrowed down the search for Stewart to Rebel Ridge star Aaron Pierre and piano lesson actor Stephen James. Sources also say, Stewart, that screen tests have with the 2 happened on Thursday and continued into Friday of this week.
So they're really taking their time to make sure they get it right.
Yeah, they're definitely not playing around here. It says Hawes is a British director who has numerous episodes of tense thrillers under his belt. He worked with Showtime's pulpy Penny Dreadful. Oh, I did like Penny Dreadful. Spike TV's The Mist, serial killer show The Alienists, and AMC's Snowpiercer. And anthology series Black Mirror, among other shows. So it definitely feels like his directing style is right up there for a gritty, true detective vibe series. But so we do have our director for our first 2 episodes here. But I think for me, the biggest announcement, Stewart, for me is the screen testing for John Stewart. So they are, I would assume, when you're saying screen tests, to me, this means 2 things, Stewart. Testing with a costume on, maybe even like just civilian garb as well. But I also got to assume chemistry testing opposite somebody like Kyle Chandler. Those would be my 2 assumptions. But what do you think as far as where we're at with the casting here?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're doing right now. They're just testing both actors with Kyle Chandler to see which one he has the better chemistry with at the moment. And they may even be kind of like changing maybe the dynamic of the script based on how the 2 actors interact, if they do it kind of in a similar way to Marvel, because I know that's what Marvel will do, is like they'll have a basic idea of what the character is, and while the character itself won't change, the personality of them, some tweaks here and there in the scripts might change based on not just the actor that they hired to play that character, but also the actors that they have, like that the actor is playing off of, what their overall chemistry is like on screen, what dynamic between the 2 of them is more interesting to watch. Is it more fun to watch them, banter with each other, or is it more fun to watch them like kind of butt heads? Yeah.
I low key am really, I really want to see this costume, man.
Yes.
I got to assume if they're doing screen tests, they're probably doing screen tests with the suit on, kind of see how they look, different poses, different angles, working opposite somebody like a Kyle Chandler. So yeah, I do think if anything, Stuart, if I can have a bold take here, with them doing screen tests on Thursday and Friday, I thought for sure we would have ourselves maybe an announcement this weekend, but I do think we will have an announcement next week. It would not surprise me if we have a casting announcement for who John Stewart is. It would not surprise me if tomorrow, if come Monday, kicking off the week, we get ourselves a casting announcement. But I have a feeling we will hear casting announcement for John Stewart this week. I'm going to make that prediction right now.
Watch it be literally the moment we end the broadcast.
maybe Sunday afternoon before Sunday Night Football or something like that. Maybe we should check social media right now to make sure they don't have any breaking news for us. But yeah, man, I'm excited for this. I'm glad to see that things are coming together. And yeah, the screen testing is going to be the most important thing. So we'll see, and we'll definitely keep you guys posted. But let us know your thoughts. We got a director for the first 2 episodes of Lanterns. Screen tests for both Aaron Pierre and what's the other gentleman's name? Why am I blanking on his name right now? Stephen James. Stephen James is currently underway.
Yeah, and looking at his IMDb, the director, yeah, he definitely looks like he directs like some pretty big shows out there. So like one of them was Dances with Wolves, which I actually, or sorry, Raised by Wolves, which I haven't seen, but I haven't heard anything bad about.
That was a Ridley Scott series, wasn't it? On
Yeah.
HBO Max. Yeah,
I've been hearing it's amazing.
I watched the first season. I was a big fan of the first season. I don't think I watched the second season though, but it was definitely trippy. But I didn't know he directed that. But that's cool though.
Yeah, he also did Black Mirror and quite a few episodes of Doctor Who.
Oh, really? He did Doctor Who episodes?
Yeah.
Okay. What year? For
God, what's that? What was the first? Not the first, technically, but you know, the 8th Doctor.
David Tennant?
No, not David Tennant. The one right before David Tennant. Who only lasted one season.
Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah, that's it. Eccleston. He did 2 Christopher Doctor Who episodes, and then 3 David Tennant Doctor Who episodes.
Damn, I'm gonna need to go back and check those out, man. All right. I appreciate the heads up on what the directors worked on before. Blossom says, I grew up on Jon Stewart's Green Lantern, him and Kyle Rayner. I sure hope find some good people for them. I hope so too, Blossom. I would love to see Kyle Rayner certainly come through at some point in time. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. Oh, and I thought it was interesting too that Josh Brolin this week too, Stewart. I won't bring this up, but he did comment finally on him being offered the role. So just so people know, Josh Brolin was definitely offered the role of Hal Jordan. That definitely was not anything that was made up because Josh Brolin this week did address it. He says, you know what? Green Lantern didn't work, but that's okay. He says it's working out. Who is it going to be? Kyle Chandler? I love him as an actor. I think he's wonderful, actually. And you know, we'll see what's down the line, man. So he seems like he's open to working with DCU at some point in time, but clearly Green Lantern just didn't work for him. But I always love seeing an actor wish good luck to whoever else got the role.
Definitely, yeah. I think, yeah, I could see him being open to doing a DC movie in the future, but I definitely can get why quite a few actors wanted to turn down the Green Lantern movie, given like you know, the track record it had. Even though it's only been one movie, it, you know, was a movie that wasn't exactly the biggest success. So I could see like why some actors are pretty hesitant in joining, especially when we don't even know what this new DC universe is going to look like at the moment.
I think he's waiting for that Jonah Hex movie, bro.
He wants to return as Jonah Hex. He's like, no, you don't understand. This character can work. I want to prove it.
That's exactly what we're waiting on. I will just say I'm scrolling through Twitter real quick. The Twitter handle DC Film News just dropped this. James Gunn confirms there's been momentum on Paradise Lost and DCU's Wonder Woman. Somebody asks him, understandably, any progress on Paradise Lost or Wonder Woman? I can imagine a few drafts being sent in. He just says yes. So, so yes, drafts and scripts currently being worked on. So there is movement there, but that's about as movement as you'll get. All right. With that out of the way, let's move on to our next topic here as we visit the world of Eternia, Stewart. That's right. We're getting back into our Masters of the Universe news to a certain extent. In the world of Eternia, but we're not focusing on He-Man. But I gotta say, props to Amazon here for really wanting to push the envelope in building out Eternia in this world of Amazon Prime, or I should say this world of Masters of the Universe, if you will, because not only do we have Travis Knight from Bumblebee giving us a live action Masters of the Universe movie between Mattel and Amazon MGM. But apparently, Stewart, they have plans on bringing She-Ra to life as well. She-Ra just recently got done with a very successful animated series over on Netflix. I don't remember how many seasons it ran for, maybe like 4 or 5. I might be tripping though, but pretty well recognized critically and by audiences. I personally have not had the opportunity to check this out, but apparently there is more for She-Ra to certainly do. Let's go ahead and dive into this article, Stuart, because it looks as though there is some movement on a She-Ra live action series. They have officially nabbed a screenwriter for the show itself. Amazon MGM, it says She-Ra might have first debuted in 1980, but the Princess of Power has found her way back to the screen countless times. Most recently, Netflix would bring back He-Man's sister in the cult favorite series She-Ra and the Princess of Power, garnering 5 seasons and over 50 animated episodes. The show would come to an end with fans hoping to see more of Adora. While the animated series has not shown any hints of making a comeback, Amazon MGM is working on a new live action series that will give a brand new take on the Princess of Power. Now the studio has announced who will be writing the series. While the live action adaptation was announced in 2021, Amazon billed it with the following description: an epic fantasy series about an orphaned young woman who leads a revolution to save her planet from annihilation. While casting details and a release window remain a mystery for the series, it's been announced that Heidi Schreck will both write and executive produce the upcoming show. If you're unfamiliar with her past work, she previously had a hand creating the series such as Billionaires, as Billions and Nurse Jackie, while also starring and writing the screenplay or the stage play What the Constitution Means to Me. So yeah, we got ourselves a live action series in the works. And they have themselves a writer and executive producer as of right now. So yeah, Stuart, coming off of says, should Amazon MGM release both Masters of the Universe and the She-Ra live action projects, expect a crossover between the two wouldn't be outside of the realm of popularity. Now, whether this crossover will arrive as a TV series or a movie is anyone's guess, should Prince Adam and Adora meet again. So, yeah, man, live action She-Ra in the news here, Stuart. Thoughts?
Dude, this sounds like it would be a lot of fun. I really look forward to the live action He-Man movie, and I think that a live action She-Ra movie, or not movie, TV series in this case, would make for one pretty epic fantasy, especially I'm assuming it'll probably go for like a younger audience, and so it'll give them the excuse to really have like a lot of fun with this. And I'm curious if it'll be tied to the live action He-Man universe or if it'll be kind of separate, because it's been interesting how like we've had both like a He-Man revival and then a She-Ra revival, and they came on around the same time, but Netflix didn't let or I don't know if it was Netflix or Mattel they were the ones like kind of forbidding any crossover between the two of them, because it sounded like both the showrunner for She-Ra and Kevin Smith were pretty open about the idea of crossing over their two worlds. But it seems like the people at Mattel or Netflix, one of the two, didn't like that, weren't quite as on board with that idea as they were. So I'm curious if we're going to get that with this. But yeah, so I never watched the original She-Ra, obviously, way before my time, but I did watch the reboot for She-Ra, really enjoyed it, and I think that there's definitely a lot of potential there for a fun live action series.
So you did watch the series?
Oh yeah. Ooh, actually something really awesome thing I gotta tell you about. So like back in I want to say this was like 2018 or so, there was a WonderCon panel, and it was in the really big like auditorium. So this wasn't like kind of just like a small panel, it was like a really big one. So I was going with my girlfriend, who was dressed up as She-Ra from the prom episode, and the night before she was like stressing about the costume just because it didn't look like the way she was hoping, but I was like trying to reassure her, no, I think it looks great. It's going to be great. People are going to love it tomorrow. tomorrow when we go. And so we're heading there. And before we even enter WonderCon, this woman comes up to us and she's like super, super amazed by her costume. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I love it. You're She-Ra from the prom episode." And made her feel really good and everything. And then afterwards, she's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm so sorry, I can't remember her name," but she introduces herself. Turns out she was actually one of the writers on the show.
Whoa.
Not the head writer, but like one of the big writers on the show. So when you get a compliment, when your cosplay gets a compliment from a writer of a show, I think that's when you did a good job.
That's pretty cool, man. That's got to be a really cool feeling to have that happen. So that's cool that she got that recognition, man. I haven't had the opportunity to check out the She-Ra show myself personally, but I have heard really good things about it. I mean, even Marcelino says Netflix She-Ra is easily the best thing out of the He-Man franchise. The idea of you bringing up a crossover or seeing them meet at some point in time, I would be completely open to that. Now that we have Travis Knight sort of setting the course for Eternia and Masters of the Universe, I wonder if this announcement of a screenwriter comes based off of, hey, we've checked out Travis Knight's work for Masters of the Universe, what he's established, the lore and sort of like the world building that he's done. And now we have this screenwriter that maybe has also seen the same thing, or we've informed them as to the direction that we kind of want to take the Masters of the Universe franchise. And who knows, maybe they're both playing in the same sandbox or has an idea as to the trajectory that Amazon wants to take these characters in this world. And maybe this writer, she's able to sort of piggyback off of what Travis Knight establishes in Masters of the Universe. Like something like that would be really, really cool. I mean, who would have thought that us waiting so many years for a live action Masters of the Universe movie could now potentially have opened the door for a Eternia cinematic universe of some sort of, like, now that we've got those pieces rolling for the movie, now we can also focus on a different type of medium, and that being from the television perspective. So there is an element that I personally would love this to be connected. If it's not, that's okay, but it would feel weird that both of these projects are under the same umbrella and there not be like any attempt to kind of connect them. So, whether or not it's a case of like, what Transformers is doing in the sense of, hey, let's get maybe 2 Transformers movies out and then we'll do a G.I. Joe and Transformers crossover, like maybe they'll allow these 2 projects to kind of breathe on their own before crossing over. But Stewart, you bringing that up and just the tease of it too from the article itself, it's like, yeah, the fact that it's taken us this long to kind of give us a live action Eternia, I would love to see these 2 actually cross over at some point in time, man. So I'm feeling as hopeful for Eternia and this universe as I have ever been, Stewart.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agreed. Yeah, and then on top of you mentioning the Eternia cinematic universe, let's not forget that when Mattel announced their lineup of upcoming live action films, they did say they wanted it to all share one coherent universe. So for all we know, that's all going to be part of the Barbie universe too.
Oh my God. No, please, Mattel. Please, I don't know if I need a Mattel cinematic universe, but Eternia cinematic universe will work for me. I don't know if I need Margot Robbie popping up in a Masters of the Universe sequel or anything like that.
Dude, that'd be so funny if they just like if they did a similar plot in like one of the sequels for like Masters of the Universe of them going to Earth, but they just go to Earth in just such a weird way that they end up in the world of Barbie.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Wrong portal, guys. Wrong portal.
Yeah.
And then we got one more story that we'll highlight for you guys because growing up as a kid, this was my jam because I absolutely loved watching Nickelodeon growing up as a child. One of my favorite pastimes was not only watching shows like Doug, but also Rugrats. I loved Rugrats, and I think we recently, Stuart, if I'm not mistaken, I think we just had a Rugrats revival in an animation form. I thought we had like a CGI animated series on Paramount Plus. If you can look that up for me, I am kind of curious if we have multiple seasons of this show, if it was like a one and done, like
It
most streaming services.
It's
What was the deal
weird
with that?
because this is the second time that Paramount has done this with one of their failed shows. But yeah, they tried to revive it with the CG animated show. Never saw it, so I don't know like what the overall like thought of the show was. Because to me, it just looked like an exact revival of the show, so the original series. So I didn't think it would be bad or anything. But apparently Paramount didn't like it, so they took it off the website. It's no longer even on there. They did that with the although this one I cannot blame them for, because holy crap, this one looked terrible. But there was like a sitcom Fairly Odd Parents live action adaptation, another one after like the trilogy of Fairly Odd Parents live action movies. But yeah, that one was so bad they ended up just quietly removing it from Paramount Plus as well. So I think it was kind of a similar story. It was probably a tax write-off thing overall. I think that's what it comes down to.
That's so sad, the fact that they were ashamed of this project and have officially no longer doing anything with it. But we are getting word, Stewart, that they're not done with the franchise, that a live action Rugrats movie is in fact set over at Paramount. I don't know if they've necessarily learned from their mistakes, Stewart, because it's going to be a mix of live action and CGI. So they are going back to the well of CGI Rugrat babies. So let's go ahead and pull this up here. This comes to us from Variety, letting us know that Rugrats live action movie is currently in development. It says it's Rugrats is returning to the big screen. Paramount is developing a live action CG hybrid feature film that's based on the beloved 90s animated children's TV show. Tommy Pickles and his pal Chucky, Phil, and Lil will be animated in the movie, which is set in the real world a la Sonic the Hedgehog. It's unclear who from the original series will appear in the upcoming film, though. Jason Moore, whose credits include Pitch Perfect and Tina Fey, Amy Poehler comedy Sisters, is directing the film. Saturday Night Live actor Mikey Day and head writer Streeter Seidel is penning the script. So it gives you an idea who the director and the writer is. So they at least have both of those in place to make this movie really happen. So they've got a lot of the heavy lifting kind of done already. It does tell us a little bit about the Rugrats in general in regards to some of the movies and television shows that they've certainly have had in the past. But yeah, that looks like that's about all that we get from this. So, Stuart, we are getting an a la Sonic the Hedgehog like live action Rugrats film here, starring our favorite babies. How do you feel about it?
I like the Rugrats as much as the next guy because I grew up with that show. In fact, even my parents, especially my mom, used to absolutely love the Rugrats. She used to hate it when I watched Nickelodeon, but like that show was like that show and Hey Arnold were like the two exceptions. Man, I just don't see a live action Rugrats movie working at all. Yeah, that's just me though. This is something that I will probably pass on unless the trailer really blows my mind and like shows me, oh wait, this can work in live action, but I don't see it. Like I get the babies are going to be CG, so it'll still be cartoonish in the sense of like you'll still have the fun baby adventures that they go on. But no, I wish this was animated. I don't see this working in live action personally, but I guess we'll see.
I think I'm going to be a little bit more hopeful for this than you. And look, I don't think your take is different from many, because I did have somebody when we dropped this news, somebody say, who asked for this or something like that, or like, so clearly the idea of live action Rugrats may not necessarily work for everybody, but in some strange way, Stuart, I don't know why I feel like I think that this might be able to work. And I say that in the sense of kind of like Sonic the Hedgehog when that was first announced. I didn't necessarily know if it would work, especially when you say a live action, but you're animating Sonic. And then after I saw the very first like sketches of what Sonic was originally going to look like, I was like, yeah, this movie is definitely not going to work. But they managed to kind of pull it off. And I think the elements that will make or break this film for me, not only is it the approach that they take, but it's also going to be who are the parents, like who are they going to get to cast as the parents opposite of the Rugrats? Because I always felt that even watching the Rugrats, while it did focus on the kids, I thought the parents were just as an important aspect of the show as the babies were. And so seeing who they're going to get as the parents to maybe work opposite some of the CGI characters, I think will be interesting. I have always really loved the child parent sort of dynamic on the show. And so I think if you can get a really talented cast of parents, and then you mix that in also with a little bit of classic, like look who's talking to sort of thing with like who did the voice from the baby? Was it Bruce Willis? I think might have did the baby's voice.
No, he did.
John Travolta. Was it John Travolta?
He did Spike, I think, the dog. I don't.
Maybe it was true. Who did the voice for the baby? I thought maybe it was John Travolta did the voice for the baby. Look Who's Talking. Baby? The Look Who's Talking movie.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were still talking. My bad. I don't know. Never mind.
But there is a vibe of like babies.
Yeah, it was John Travolta.
John Travolta, right? It's the idea and the concept of like babies that can talk amongst each other, but like parents don't kind of understand. And so I think it would be a really cool sort of like if they go the route of like maybe like inner thoughts, them talking to themselves, them just being able to talk amongst themselves, but the parents not understanding them when we go to a parent's kind of perspective. So I do think that there's a little bit of really fun so really fun that the movie can definitely have and find in itself, really based off of, I think, not only the themes that it's going to tackle, but also the perspectives of how you present the babies and who the cast members are going to be for the family. That makes me think that this can oddly become a really big success. I think Sonic kind of, I don't want to say Sonic laid the groundwork, but I think it showcased a way of establishing live action and CGI characters really working well. The strength of having somebody like a James Marsden to work opposite of a character. If you can nail one or two really great actors to play the parents to work opposite the babies, I think that can work. And then you find a story that's really well balanced for parents and for kids also. If you can have some adult comedy in there from time to time that the adults will pick up on, but the kids may not, I think this movie could really tap a particular audience group and get a ton of people to certainly come out. So at first impressions, I can see why people may not think that this can work, but I do think if executed properly, Rugrats could actually be something relatively special. But that's how I would probably try and tackle it, though. But we'll see. We'll see how this turns out. I was not expecting this news, though.
Yeah, I'm glad one of us is optimistic about this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's because I grew up with them. I mean, you grew up with them too, I'm sure. But I don't know. I think I think the Look Who's Talking reference for me makes me kind of view this a little bit differently in regards to how they could tackle it. But we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Blossom says live action. I don't know about this.
Yeah,
I don't know about this.
I'm on the same boat because I think I'd be excited for this if this was a animated movie coming to theaters. Because I remember because they've done 3.
They did have an animated movie, right? They have done animated movies.
Yeah, they've had 3 theatrical ones, if I'm not mistaken. Because the first one I actually thought was really good, which was when they introduced the 5th baby, Tommy's little brother Dill. which that one was actually a pretty good movie from what I remember. And then the other one was Rugrats Go to Paris, which may or may not have been the cause of my obsession with kaijus, because there was a giant battle at the end. And I think it was from there I started to get into Godzilla. And then the last one, not the best, but it was, I think it was funny from what I remember, but it was also like weird that this got a theatrical release, which was like the Rugrats Wild Thornberry crossover movie.
Yeah.
The Rugrats Gone Wild. That's what it was
Gone
called,
Wild.
right? Something like
I
that.
believe so. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Marcelino says, fortunately, we have another Fairly Odd Parent cartoon that's a sequel to the original, and it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, that one. I cannot remember the name of the new kid that the Fairly Odd Parents have, but yeah, Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish, if I'm not mistaken. Everything I've seen from that, and then like just all the reviews I've been seeing for it, it actually Hazel. That's who it was. Yeah, so Hazel's the new kid. And yeah, I've been hearing nothing but positive things about the show. It looks like that actually really recaptured, the great feel of the original Fairly Odd Parents cartoon, only modernizing it just enough for modern audiences.
This is interesting. I wonder how they'll illustrate the baby's imaginations in live action. I think that's pretty interesting. I would be kind of curious to see how they would make that work blossom. That's a good question to ask.
I do hope that, yeah, when we see the babies doing their like adventure, that we get their perspective. So it actually, just like in the cartoon, it like you get a completely different set, you get a completely different like look, and then the match cuts, because that was always something I really enjoyed too. Like they would do match cuts where it's like, let's say they're doing an Indiana Jones parody where you'd have Tommy like swinging on the whip, but then you would cut to like Tommy like what he's actually doing, and he's like swinging on a rope, or just something random that he can find. And it's like that, things like that were so charming about the show. And okay, so I didn't watch too much of this show, but there was a show called All Grown Up, which was basically the babies, but now they're 10 years old. And the most brilliant thing about this show, I think, was that Tommy wanted to be a filmmaker. And I'm like, that makes so much sense with his character from like, everything we see of him as a baby, having the biggest imagination out of all of them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I never picked up on that, but I think that's really brilliant direction for Tommy to go in his life. That it just fits so perfectly.
It does.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. How do you personally feel about the idea of a live action Rugrats film? Do you think it can work? Are there other examples in Hollywood movies that you might have seen that you think can show that they could pull this off, or are you certainly concerned or worried? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below, guys. But that will do it for all of our main topics today, man. So appreciate you, Stewart, bouncing off some of these ideas, and appreciate the those that have watched us live today to get some of your thoughts on some of these topics. But the show's not over, Stewart. We got one more segment, man. I think you know what time it is, though.
I do indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to move to our live questions portion of the show here. So if you ever want to submit a live viewer question, just simply go over to our YouTube channel, as you see right here. Click on that community tab, and every Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, we'll have a live viewer question post here for you guys. So feel free to submit them over, and then we'll definitely answer them live on air for you. So definitely a lot for us to get into. Looks like we got 5 comments. Let's see if that means we've got 5 questions, but let's get some music started here too, man. And I will go ahead and put some background music on, but if for some reason, if the music is too loud, please let me
know. Try saying something now.
Yeah, I'm sure. It'll adjust in time.
Oh, perfect. Now it's there.
You're there? Okay. If the music is too loud, ladies and gentlemen, let me know. I'll go ahead and lower it if we need to. But we do have a couple questions here. Doomsday looks like he came in first today. Do you think it's right for people to constantly blame Jason David Frank's wife, Tammy Frank, for his death? What?
No.
Are people still on that? I don't even know why. I don't even remember why they'd even think that.
That's weird to me, but no.
You, unless you have like solid, and I mean
Yeah.
solid evidence, do not spread rumors like that. That is completely like, yeah, no, just.
And I definitely know it's definitely not doomsday spreading.
Oh no
rumors
no
like
no
that,
no
but
no no no!
I
I'm not blaming doomsday
clearly.
at all.
I
No,
think
sorry.
clearly I think he's still reading or seeing people out there that are still talking about it, but it's been forever. I mean, I can't remember if they had an argument or what had happened maybe leading up to it, if they had said maybe some hurtful things towards each other. I don't really know the reasoning as to why people would assume that, but if it's because him and Tammy went through some things and then the next day or so he ended up hurting himself and committing suicide, like if people want to put blame on somebody like that, I just think that's terrible. I just don't. Unless people have concrete evidence, nobody's charging this woman for being responsible for his death. JDF, as much as we look to him and love him for what he's done for us in the past, you know, we all have our faults and we all make our own decisions, even if those decisions are clouded by things that aren't true and that we make ourselves to certainly believe at some point in time. You know, JDF, the result of JDF is based off of JDF's decisions, unfortunately. And, you know, when it comes to suicide, it's a very selfish act. I think it's one that leaves a lot of family members and friends to question, like, why? But, you know, it's something that people, I don't know if we'll ever truly understand or be able to wrap our heads around. You know, suicide is such a tricky thing, man. But JDF did that to JDF, unfortunately. It doesn't matter who he had an argument with. You know, clearly they loved each other. You know, when you love each other, you know, hurtful things do tend to get said, right? There's a slogan out there, Stewart, right? Like the people that hurt you the most are the people that you love. And that's truth. But I think we all need to, this is a lesson of us as individuals learning how to cope with things that are in our life in as healthy of a way as we possibly can, because life is hard for everybody. Relationships are hard for everybody. And if we're not getting the proper, and look, we could be getting everything we need from people, right? The love of people, the compliments from people to make us feel better about ourselves. But if we don't feel good about who we are, you know, at the end of the day, this is when things like this certainly happen. So, you know, I don't know if he was ever had a therapist or if he ever had somebody to talk with him. And hey, you can have, like I said, you can have all those things, and you still do harm to yourself, you know? And so JDF's actions are on JDF's actions. And I don't think we should be blaming anybody else for that, unfortunately, especially if it's not like a homicide or somebody murdered this. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's just an emotional thing and people said some words to each other and he handled it incorrectly and he had other things that we don't know he was struggling with, then, you know, who's to say? But to blame Tammy, unless she pulled the trigger herself, I don't understand. It just makes no sense to me, man.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
How do you feel that Jaden, the Red Ranger, Samurai Ranger, is getting more praise than he used to? I mean, you know, look, I'm never mad when people get more praise. I just don't want people to gaslight me and to say, hey, Samurai was a great show, you guys missed it. Nah, don't gaslight me. No. If you liked it, that's cool, but don't make me feel like it was a great show when I know it wasn't. But if anything, I'm glad people are coming around to it. I'm glad that it's getting some buzz, that people are positive around it, and having a different view on Jaden. I think if I were to give it another rewatch, I might have different views than what I had on it previously. But I'd rather people celebrate a series and characters instead of bash it. So if he's getting more praise than he used to, props to Jaden and everybody that worked on that show.
I'm sure if I watched Samurai on its own, I wouldn't have disliked it as much, but because it was like part of my Power Rangers binge, and I watched it right after RPM, which like, kind of set my expectations a little unfairly high, I will admit. It was just such a step down compared to what we got with RPM,
Yeah, I can totally see that. Do you find it funny how Super Ninja Steel was the only anniversary season that had its crossover episode being in the correct year? What I mean by that is while Force 10th anniversary Forever Red was actually during the 9th year of Power Rangers Operations Overdrive 15 was actually the 14th year of Power Rangers, and the 20th anniversary Legendary Fail was actually the 21st year of Power Rangers, but Super Ninja Steel's 25th anniversary was actually during the 25th year of Power Rangers. I wonder if there's a reason for that. Like if it's just the way that the release schedule ended up being. Like it was filmed maybe during that particular year, the anniversary year, but by the time it was released, it came out later. I wonder if that's the situation.
Yeah, probably something like that. Maybe because they finally got it right with Ninja Steel, that was why they decided to finally air Power Rangers during prime time.
Oh yeah, maybe. Peg C, Adam and Stewart, how's it going? I appreciate you coming through, Peg C. He says, couple questions. When did you know that Power Rangers was adapted from Super Sentai?
Oh man, when did I don't remember. It was definitely during the early days of the internet.
I can't
couldn't
remember.
tell you when.
I don't remember if it was like after seeing the MMPR movie or if it was after seeing like them change costumes into like Zeo, and I'm like, oh, so that's where they got that. I don't remember, man. It's been a while since I came to that realization.
I guess same question for everyone in the comments. When did you find out that Power Rangers was an adaptation of another show?
And did you cry? Was it like discovering Santa wasn't real?
No, I didn't cry. I kind of got excited. I'm like, what? There's a whole nother Power Rangers, and then I didn't watch any of them all the way through, but I definitely checked out Zoo Ranger, like at least like the first episode, and then like just a montage of different clips online, just because I was curious. But I never, I didn't really get into Super Sentai until like I want to say about the year before I joined Hero Report is when I just like kind of started getting into Super Sentai because you recommended Gokaiger. And then that was when I kind of like started my whole tokusatsu binge for a while.
Man, look at all this love. Like Toei, you should be paying me, bro. I've at least helped send like 2 people your way to discover, or if not like 3 people in my life to help people discover Super Sentai a little bit more. So yeah, maybe you should start paying me, Toei, for sure.
Paying Adam for showing me how to find the legal websites to watch these on.
Yeah, man. He says, what were your initial thoughts as a kid of the 1989 TMNT cartoon when it first came out? I don't know if I remember it like first debuting. I don't remember in my head if I remember like sitting down for the first episode. I think I remember just getting into the show, and then they used to have a lot of I used to go to the video store a lot, and they would have the volumes of like the storyline batches. So you might have like a 4 or 5 episode arc or something like that on the VHS tape, and it was like the first 5 episodes or the first 4 episodes or whatever the case may be. I think I discovered the beginnings of the cartoon series via that way, VHS, and then maybe kind of came in to the series in the middle. I don't remember watching it like from first episode or not, but I just remember loving it personally. I wouldn't say I was a huge TMNT fan, but I definitely had my fair share of action figures based off of the cartoon series for sure. So it definitely had an impact on me. It was just really fun, and I can see why something like Secret of the Ooze, the second one, was made the way that it did to kind of fit and establish more the 1980s cartoon.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny? My introduction to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was actually the Ninja Turtles movie from 1989.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't learn it was a cartoon beforehand until like years later, because I remember the new cartoon came out in 2003, and I was like, "Oh, cool! They're making a cartoon based on the Ninja Turtles movie." And I think one of my older brothers was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
I love it. I love it. He also says, do you think in season of MMPR the Rangers should have gotten the Kaku Rangers suit instead of them keeping the Zoo Rangers costumes? Yes. I have always wanted to have seen the Kaku Rangers suits adapted, man. I mean, I guess they keep the MMPR simply because of the fact that by this time, I think in MMPR, it's such an established and successful show that you're probably thinking to yourself, like, man, we got to keep these costumes around for as long as we possibly can. And if we are going to introduce anybody new, maybe that's where we utilize these other costumes. But I think just the popularity alone of MMPR and the suits and just what it stood for was just so recognizable that I can see maybe why Saban didn't want to change it up at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, it would have been great if they established the whole like new suit every season, like early on. But on a marketing standpoint, I definitely understand why they didn't.
If you had to choose between the Dino Megazord and the Thunder Megazord, which would you choose?
Oh, Dino for sure. Like the original. I assume by Dino you mean like the original Mighty Morphin Megazord, and by Thunder you mean the Dino Thunder Megazords. But yeah, like in terms of like between those two, I don't think, honestly, I think the first Megazord is the best. I don't think any of the Megazords have ever looked better than the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and maybe that's the nostalgia in me talking, but to me it was just so perfectly simple and yet so, you know, epic at the same time. It's my favorite.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Dino Megazord too. Blossom, about JDF, do you feel like Power Rangers feels sort of empty without him? Not just him, but without Trini, Zed, etc. You know what? I kind of do, Stewart. I kind of do feel Power Rangers is a little bit empty. You know, while I don't dabble in Power Ranger fandom like I used to on social media, I do feel like the trajectory of the franchise has changed in the way that I'm not pleased with, whether that be Hasbro's fault. You know, that's not really JDF connected, but it is interesting, the dominoes and how things have fallen with JDF kind of being gone. It feels like the crazies from Power Rangers have come out more, in a sense of like Power Ranger actors revealing their true selves. You know, Austin St. John going down this crazier and crazier rabbit hole, and you know, Hector David Jr. like assaulting senior citizens and shit. Like, the direction that some of these actors have taken since JDF's passing, you know, I don't know. He brought a sense of joy, laughter. You know, Jinsaku, I think, posted this video, or somebody posted this video of JDF and David, the guy that Billy. Damn it, why am I?
Oh, David Yost.
David Yost at a convention together, and you know, JDF was such a prankster. You know, there's a video of him like pranking David to go into this panel, and he thinks it's a Power Ranger related panel, but like JDF builds it up to be that, and he's like, man, they're waiting for you, they're so excited for you. There's like, dude, I want you to go in there, just scream, it's morphin' time, you know, and then like get on stage and proceed with the panel. So my man runs in, you know, David gets up, builds up this courage, he runs in, he's like, it's morphin' time, and it's like a completely different genre, like just like completely. He's got his Triceratops helmet in hand. I mean, he's so happy to be there, and he walks in there like, this is the wrong panel. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, and he's got to leave, and he comes out and he's pissed at JDF. He's like, I can't believe you made me do that, I'm so embarrassed. JDF is just dying laughing, dude. He's just laughing his ass off. He apologizes, but he's just laughing his ass off.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, that's what's missing, man. That's what's missing. Like, Power Rangers just having a good time and bringing laughter and joy. And that's what always made me, I don't want to say it made me upset, but I never understood people that were like over JDF or were like, I'm so tired of seeing JDF and the Green Ranger and the White Ranger. I mean, the guy has literally done so much for the fandom. It's one of those things like now that he's gone, I think we see even more the impact that he had, not only on helping keep Power Rangers alive and active for as long as he did, but just the impact that he had on the cast, how he influenced the fans, and just all the goodwill that I thought that he helped bring to the franchise. And I just don't know if anybody has kind of stepped up and really sort of filled that void since his passing. And it does feel like there's an empty space in Power Rangers these days, but maybe that's just me, Stuart.
No, I mean, I definitely agree there's an empty space. I don't know if I would say that JDF was the cause, or his death was the cause of it, or if it was just a mixture of many things that just are now kind of taken off. Because I think it was his passing happened around the time that the series was coming to an end. And it was also like after his passing, there were all these cancellations there was the cancellation for the Netflix projects that were going to be going into effect. And then on top of that, this last couple of years now, I haven't watched too much of this channel, and and it's not because like I have anything against with what they're doing, because I don't know, maybe there's actually a good reason for them doing what they're doing. It's just internet drama that I just don't feel like engaging with. But I know that there's this whole channel out there now that's really just kind of there to expose certain Power Rangers actors for certain things, and the only reason I know about it is because they're constantly bringing on like really big Power Rangers YouTubers to talk about it, people who I wouldn't consider to be like toxic at all. So I'm thinking if they're going on the show, there must be like kind of like some legitimacy to this channel. But that being said, it's not my cup of tea. It's not something that I personally want to engage with, at least not at the moment. So I just think that like all these things kind of piling up on each other is why like people just don't want to really engage with Power Ranger discussions like they used to. But I hope that if we get another Power Ranger project coming into development sometime soon, I hope that changes. But I think just for now, it's just we're at a point where like not only is Power Rangers on a bit of a hiatus, but it seems like the fandom's interest is on a bit of hiatus. But I don't think it's dead. I think it'll definitely come back once something new comes to the franchise.
Blossom also asked, did you see the documentary they made for Jim Henson yet? I have not seen it, no. She says, I'm not spoiling it, but the man was a genius. I mean, geez, Trixie. Yeah, I could definitely see genius status for sure. I mean, people still try and capture the same magic that Jim Henson did with their animation and puppeteering and things like that. Yeah, Jim Henson is a true legend and genius for sure. Marcelino, one thing that Hasbro era loved to do was bring back older villains for a multi-arc or be the main villain once again. If Hasbro did continue to adapt other Super Sentai seasons into Power Rangers, which past villain would you want to see return? I personally would want to see Thrax return and be the main villain for a season. He's the son of Rita and Zed. He should have been the main villain in Operation Overdrive and not just an anniversary villain. Yeah, Thrax feels like he could have been a main villain somewhere else for sure.
Man,
is it bad? I kind of want to see a return of Divatox. Like,
not at all.
Like I didn't care for Turbo, but I don't know if it's the overtopness of her portrayal of the character, or if I want to see, now that she's aged and she's older, if she has a little bit more wisdom to go along with like her over the topness a little bit. Like I wonder if there's a level of seriousness and age that has kind of changed her a little bit. I would like to see a more balanced Divatox, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would want to see return.
this might be cheating a little bit because it's not a particular villain. I don't really care too much about King Mondo or his family, but I love the Machine Empire just as a concept as a whole.
Yeah.
So I would love to see them return, if they ever brought back Power Rangers.
Yeah, give me absolutely, Stewart. Machine Empire for sure. And it may not be King Mondo, but maybe his son. I would like to see what his son turned out to be, the little asshole. But yeah, I do love that.
Basically the robot Angelica, since we were talking about Rugrats earlier.
Yeah. Marcelin says, I think Divatox is one of the most hated villains in the franchise, but we have seen that badly written characters can return and be better. And I think that's kind of what I want to see. I kind of want to see not only her older, but how it's changed her as a character and the opportunity to be able to really give that character who was pretty hated and a little bit too over the top for me, like how they would, I want to say change course for her, but just the development that I think could potentially have happened in time for her. If you went back to prevent Eric Wallace from becoming showrunner, who would you have instead become the new showrunner for The Flash?
I mean, I wouldn't prevent anyone from becoming a showrunner. If anything, I would just give them a little bit of hindsight advice as to what fans are going to be complaining about, in the future. But if I did have to pick a showrunner for The Flash, though, who would I go with? That's actually a really tough question.
Who did I have in mind? Okay, hold on. I'm trying to look up one other thing here. Hold on a second. Because I might have two names for you. So okay. Oh wow, that was him. I didn't know that he showrun that season, but yeah, I guess so. So first, to the first person I would pick, I guess this is in no order, but if I want to stay close to home in the sense of somebody that has worked on the Arrowverse shows before, I probably would have liked to have seen Jeff Johns do Flash. After seeing what he did with Stargirl, I really would love to see his take on a Flash series. I think Jay Garrick popped up in Stargirl also, so he's got some work with John Wesley Shipp. I don't remember if I even watched that episode, to be honest with you. So yeah, give me Jeff Johns would be my first choice because he's straight from the Arrowverse. So I would love to see him do the Flash. And then outside, this is a long shot. This is somebody that I appreciate just from his work on previous shows, but and is outside of the box, more mature television writing. But Noah Hawley, who did Fargo, he also did Legion, the FX Legion series that was the mutant show, and then he's also in the process of doing the Alien Earth television series, but because of the fact that Noah Hawley has dabbled in the world of comic books in doing Legion, and just him being a really capable showrunner and great writer when it comes to things like Fargo, I wouldn't mind seeing something like him tackle the Flash, especially if they went the route of really tap it into Barry Allen's sort of working at the police department as forensics and stuff. I think he'd bring an interesting flair to a Flash series.
Okay, I really love your Jeff Johns suggestion. I think that would actually work really well. I can't remember his name, but I want to say it was Jed or Jeff Whedon. So not Joss Whedon, but his brother, who was the showrunner for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think it was he and his wife that did that show. I think they would actually have done a really good job if they worked on the Flash. And then this one would have been more difficult because he was already, of course, the showrunner on Black Lightning. But I feel like Salim Akil could also have done a pretty good job on the Flash, because he knows how to do kind of a family superheroes. Even though they're not a direct family, they are still a found family within the Flash, as they call themselves, the Team Flash. So I think those two would have been my choice if I had to choose one.
Wait, say that again. Who again?
First it would have been Jeff Whedon, if I'm not let me look
Oh.
up his name real quick because I don't want to keep getting it wrong. But basically the showrunner for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then Celine
okay.
McGill, the showrunner of Black Lightning. I think either one of them would have done a good job.
Yeah, I like both of them. The Black Lightning showrunner would have been a great one, especially since he had the opportunity to work with Grant Gustin opposite of Black Lightning. That'd be really cool. I do like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. showrunner choice too. Was that Josh Whedon's brother, I would assume, or cousin or something like that? Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah, I like that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. one especially. Marcelino, when it comes to grifters who scream everything going woke recently, they've been invited to conventions and have been given their own panels at conventions. Back in 2022 at Fan Expo Dallas, there was a panel dedicated to the host of Friday Night Tights, which included Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, Ryan Cannell, and Eric July. I don't think I went to their panel. And recently in 2024 this year, Eric and his Reapaverse team were given their own panel to promote their own comic series and answers a couple of questions. And if you didn't know, previously Eric has been openly affiliated with Geeks and Gamers and created his own comic book universe. In his own words, to combat the woke culture and to create real art that isn't woke and to take on the big corporations and to get what entertainment is by not shoving politics down everyone's throat. And this keeps happening as the anti-woke are given their own panels at conventions year after year. So what does this tell you? To me, it tells me conventions are keeping an eye on who the big money makers are on YouTube. And based off of their big audience size, really want to try and reach out to as many people within fandoms and franchises as possible to attend their conventions, which I think, I think every convention wants to get as many people as possible. And if you can hit on, every little aspect or big pockets of culture, I can understand that. I would be kind of curious as to how big their panels were, though. Like the panels that you are mentioning, I've never seen them on like the main theater or like on the bigger stages. Not to say that they're giving them small classroom sizes, but I am kind of curious as to like how big of rooms they're actually providing for them. But I don't know. I don't know if conventions care so much about that, so much as they care more about your fan base, the size that you bring, and how much money that they might be able to make off of you and your fan base. So, despite the idea that I may not necessarily agree with them, the fact that they come in with like a couple million viewers, I can see why conventions would still give them a platform despite what they push.
Yeah, exactly. I personally don't like them, but I mean, if conventions need to make money, like, I get it to an extent. I personally would not be attending those panels, and if I had Twitter, I would probably be like, do not go to this or something like that. But I don't have Twitter. Nothing I can do about it. It's just, it's just a panel I will know to steer clear from. And if I see people attending those panels, I'll be like, okay, so these are probably fans I do not want to engage with later on.
If anything, I will just say, even though I've gone to Fan Expo Dallas for the past several years, one, I didn't even know that they had a panel there. So I don't feel like the conventions are purposefully like even boosting the awareness of some of their panels if they're not necessarily on the main stage. It'd be different for me if like they were like a main theater sort of panel and they were able to get this stuff out to like a big audience in attendance sort of thing, but it doesn't seem like that's what's kind of happening here. But I can understand why they're being brought in. Jessica, do you think Hasbro should sell the TV rights to Power Rangers to another company like Amazon, so maybe we can see the reboot or other Super Sentai adaptations? And would you like to see a sequel to Pokemon Detective Pikachu one day? I do think a sequel for Detective Pikachu might be in the works. I'm not quite. It might be in developmental hell for all I know. But I think they're going to be moving forward with more Pokemon live action that might be based off of a sequel for Detective Pikachu, but don't quote me there. Do you think they'll sell the Hasbro? Do you think Hasbro will sell the TV rights, Stewart, or what?
I hope they do. They should. They really should, because they clearly want to cut costs. They don't really see Power Rangers as a money-making franchise. They don't see the potential. So sell it to someone who does see the potential. You know, feel like a winner in the end, because then in your mind you're ripping that person off, and then in that person's mind they have some. Oops, almost dropped something there. They have something that they see as a big success. Everyone wins. So just, you know, Hasbro, if you're watching this, if you just don't see potential in the franchise, sell it to Amazon or Netflix. I mean, preferably Amazon, because I feel like they've had a better track record with this kind of stuff. But just sell it, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just sell it.
But
yeah,
sorry. For the second question with Detective Pikachu, I wouldn't be against a sequel, but kind of I'd prefer a spin-off, like one that kind of follows the plot of the game, where it just like follows the kid going on a Pokemon adventure. But yeah, sorry, what were you saying though?
Oh yeah, no, I was just piggybacking off of that. Yeah, I do want them to sell the rights. You know, I believe one of the EPs there over at Hasbro might have gotten a tease, given us a tease of like they are planning something for Power Rangers, but at this point, this feels like Plan C and D, you know, and I don't know if I'm super excited about what a plan for, you know, Plan C or Plan C, you know, Plan C or Plan D of what their concept for a Power Ranger franchise certainly might be. So the fact that, you know, they've put stuff on hiatus for as long as they have, the fact that they've had to regroup, and their recent pitch to Netflix being turned down, at this point it just feels like you're attempting for a money grab, or you don't really have anybody that's part of the franchise that has a clear vision or direction to take it. So at that point, yeah, just sell it to somebody else that might actually have some level of investment they want to make into it, or some level of like excitement for what they might be able to turn the franchise into. So I at this point I would rather have them sell it. But we'll see. But that will do it for all of our live viewer questions.
Something I just thought about. So, you know how we were talking earlier with our first article about, like, you know, Hollywood having like, you know, basically a hardcore fan base focus group. I feel like for me, if I was doing like a Power Rangers, adaptation, like whether it's a movie or a new series, you would need someone for the opposite reason, because I would probably be packing my script with so much fan service that I would need someone to be like, hey, Stewart, you need to calm down. All right. No, we can't jam all this stuff into the movie. You need to tell a more coherent story first, and then jam in the Easter eggs.
Let's see here. Marcelino says, from what I see, their panels are smaller than the real celebrities and fill up the entire room with their fan base, but not a huge panel. They don't seem to be the main theater. They're barely bigger than a university classroom. So yeah, I mean, look, and I think that also sort of represents maybe the size of their impact in the fandom in general too. You know, I think the fact that while they might fill up a university classroom or might fill up one of the bigger stages, you know, can they fill up a main theater sort of panel hall? And that's probably not the case, right? I think that's one of the reasons why they put them in those other rooms, for example. And it could be the idea that, you know, you may have thousands of people that go to these events, but you still get a minuscule amount of people that go to those grifter panels. You know what I mean? So I think that's telling in regards to who the general audience is that attends these conventions. And then, you know, and I say this all the time because I personally don't think toxic fans really attend conventions very often. I don't. I feel like conventions are really built around fans that love franchises and their fandoms and want to see them continue to grow and be successful. Not to say that they don't have gripes, but I think they go to conventions to celebrate instead of gripe, you know? And so I think that's probably why they don't have a lot of those grifters, and those people that follow those grifters maybe go to conventions, or they probably would have bigger rooms that they certainly host these panels in, but unfortunately they don't. So it might be equivalent to just how much of a loud minority they truly are when you look at the bigger sort of general audience that represents different fandoms and stuff. You know, he says, it still makes me upset that they invite the grifters in general. I lost a little respect towards the conventions, honestly. You know,
I don't think they invite them. I think that when panels or when conventions are like started, people sign up for that, and then they select who they want to add and who they don't. And I think when it comes to the research of who they're bringing to the conventions, I think it kind of comes down to numbers more than anything else. You know, as long as it's not like, you know, overtly like super like you know, like Confederate flag on their YouTube channel. Like that's me going too far, because like I'm thinking like that's what they're looking for. So unless it's like a super obvious red flag like that, I don't think they're gonna worry too much about it. But I do see what you mean there, though.
Yeah, I get it. I definitely get the idea of being upset that they're going to the conventions, but I would agree with you, Stuart. I don't necessarily think it's an invite per se, because you do have to fill out applications in order to have a booth or a panel. And similar to me, when we get access to these events, I have to fill out an application too. So it really is dependent on what your reach is, what your subscriber count is. You know, are you going to help boost attendance or awareness of their convention in the future? And Fan Expo is such a big convention. I think it's like Funko Pop or Reed Pop or something like that that might be in charge of the Fan Expo stuff. You know, they want to bring in numbers, and so they may not necessarily even, I'm sure they're probably aware of who Geeks and Gamers are in Nerdrotic, but if you're talking about they've got millions of viewers, yeah, they definitely want their reach there. Even though, you know, look, it gives them the platform to spread a really sort of terrible and negative message. You know, it makes me feel like trying to make critics or a fan base look for political issues and try and find things that are in television shows instead of just enjoying a show for what it is when it comes down to its directing and its writing. So yeah, I'm not a big fan that they get the opportunity to have a microphone in front of them and spread that type of mentality. But to me, I at least know that they're not getting these big main theater pushes, and they're still being relegated to smaller rooms for smaller panels where they deserve to be, in the shadows where nobody can find them talking amongst themselves, you know. So yeah,
unless you're that, I can't remember the name of it, but that one D&D channel, you rarely will see like YouTubers in like the big theater rooms. There was this one D&D channel, though, that was the exception, because my girlfriend and I walked in on it like as we were waiting for something else, and I can't remember the name of the guy who hosted it, but he's like a famous D&D host, and the dude was jacked. And one of the questions was, how do you maintain that fitness while also doing 8-hour D&D campaigns? I'm like, I want to know. I'm just like taking notes in the back.
Maybe I should go undercover to one of these Geeks and Gamers or nerd erotic panels and see what they're talking about. Maybe record it or something like that too, and just to kind of see like where are you guys coming from with your mentality and stuff. Maybe I'll see if they have a panel. We got a fan festival, a Dallas Fan Festival here in like 2 weeks, so we will be having convention content for you guys. We got a huge Arrowverse reunion going on in October, man. I'm talking the cast of The Flash, the cast of Arrow, and the cast of Superman and Lois are going to be in attendance. And I think it's literally just Arrowverse actors, celebrities that are going to be there. So if you guys have some questions that you might want me to ask to some of these Arrowverse actors. Let your comments be known or questions be known in the comments after this video wraps. But I am looking forward to it. But speaking of conventions, I will look at the schedule and see if Geeks and Gamers and any of those people will be in attendance now that I know that they have convention panels from time to time. So we'll see how that goes.
And they watch this video and they're like, "It's the spy!" They just like point you out in the crowd. Get him!
Yeah, maybe I have to go with like some sort of a mask on or like pretend. Yeah, like it's Halloween time, so it's perfect time to dress up. If anything, I do have an Agatha All Along episode 4 review getting ready to drop at 4 p.m. on our channel here. I have not watched the finale for the Rings of Power season 2 yet. Me and the girlfriend have been kind of busy the past couple of days. So if anything, I think I'm going to sit her ass down and watch it tonight so that I can have a review up for you guys. If not tomorrow, then definitely Tuesday at the latest. So expect the Rings of Power season 2 finale, and we've been getting pretty good reviews. Our last review for episode 7 has over like 200 views right now, like 230 something views right now.
Nice.
It's been gaining some momentum. I've had a couple of people in the comments thank me for having a positive attitude towards reviewing the show in a very fair-minded way compared to all the hate that it's been getting. So look, fair-minded criticisms and reviews of the show might be doing well. So we'll see how if people tune in for my finale review, but definitely expect Rings of Power finale review this week, and along with the Penguin episode number 4, if I'm not mistaken, or number 3 this week, dropping. Yeah, episode number 3 this week as well. So stay tuned for that. But trying to get as much content out for you guys as we possibly can. But we definitely will be back next weekend for sure. I still want to go check out Joker Folie à Deux in theaters. I'm gonna make that something I do this week for you guys. Along with, I still want to see Transformers 1. Those are the 2 movies on my docket this week that I want to go ahead and knock out and hopefully have some reviews for you guys. So a lot of content headed your way. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, man, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Twitter and on on Instagram and on Letterboxd.
And I'm also trying to talk with John from Anime Assembled to see if he can maybe do a weekly reviews for us for Dragon Ball Daima series, which I believe begins in like a week or week and a half or something like that. It's going to be dropping here relatively soon. And then Stuart, if you do start playing some Dragon Ball, maybe for our Twitch streamers too.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to attempt to do some streaming because, there is a way I can actually play it on my computer here through my PlayStation 5 out in the living room if it's on the same Wi-Fi. So I'm going to test that out, see how that works. And if it works out really well, then, I might try to do the campaign mode on Twitch. Keep my fingers crossed that we get some really good what if storylines, because then people can see my reactions live to some of the what if stories, which is what everyone loves about the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games. And they really are hyping up the what if stories in this game because they know the fans love them. So can't wait.
Nice. Look forward to it. I definitely keep my fingers crossed too. Guys, if you want to follow us on social media, as you see practically everywhere at APlus Opinions, we also do have a TikTok page at Hero Report. There's also a Discord forum community. If you like your forum sort of setups, there is a link in the description box below for our Discord. But yeah, subscribe to our channel here if you haven't done so yet. If you like long form reviews, fair-mindedness in regards to how we break down movies and television, this might be the site for you. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It definitely does go a long way. And I would highly suggest you check us out over on our Facebook page too. That's also our other main page where we post all the news and articles, posters, trailers all throughout the week to keep you updated in regards to your favorite franchises and fandoms. But that will do it for us here. We'll certainly be back next weekend for you guys. But until then, do us a big favor as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.